IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
this morning.
I mean, you know, the good people could be anywhere in the world, but they here with us, Razor.
For sure.
And you know, we got to show that good appreciation. Let them know that it is yet another Sunday. Like what Miss Max say in that promo this week? She said it's almost Sunday.
You know what time it is. You already know.
Yes, indeed. So we are back like we never left, y'all. So definitely tell a friend, because we got the good edutainment coming for y'all for sure. And you know, we are gonna end the show with a series, you know, the first part of a series that we hope to do, Max and Razor.
Okay.
Which is the basic necessities, right? We'll talk about basic necessities because food, clothing, and shelter is of the utmost importance, especially when we're talking about right now when it comes to just us being able to be independent.
Yes.
You know, we can talk a little bit today about this national boycott that's coming up Friday, where folks are calling. I think it was generated by Reverend Al Sharpton, calling the boycott all you know, the major corporations that pulled their DEI initiatives, right, to kind of show the power of our dollar. So you know, so we're going to have Michael Carter of Carter Farms join us, Black-owned farm.
Okay.
And we, you know, there's still a lot of those around. A lot of people don't know. So we got to educate the people to say that if you don't want to go to a corporate grocer, you don't have to. You can put that money into Black families' pockets that own fresh produce and livestock, right? But middle of the show, we're gonna have Ty Cooper as well, back once again talking about the Indie Film Festival, yet another installment of that this year, and coming up into March. And we got he brings some big hitters with him too, Razor and Max. You know, so for those that don't know, Max moderated the Black Love Symposium, and the screening was of Brown Sugar. We did a movie symposium this year, and there was an actor in that by the name of, back then she was Rosalyn Coleman. Since then she got married. She's Rosalyn Coleman Williams, but she is an actor, director, owns a film company. And so she's going to be in town for the Indie Film Festival, but she's going to be on the show today.
Nice.
Ty's bringing her in for us. But all that said, with us right now, this lovely lady that's, I'm sure she's no stranger to Fifeville or to the airwaves and all that stuff. If you've been listening to IMHO for a while, none other than facilitator extraordinaire. RNN
Charles
Hardwork's
always
own.
put something on the introduction. Something on them.
Deanna McDonald, how are you today, Deanna?
I am well. Thank you for having me. I bring you greetings from the forming Charlottesville Food Co-op Steering Committee, and also Miss Carmelita Wood, president of the Fifeville Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
Yes, president of the Fifeville Neighborhood Association. She wanted to be here this morning, but had other priorities.
Okay,
and so
I understand.
She sends her greetings also.
And make sure she knows whenever she wants to dial in by phone or video, whatever she wants to do, we got her.
You bet.
Welcome to the show, Deanna.
Thank you.
Welcome. And look how God works, Matt. And Mr. Ray's over there. We talking about, you know, making sure that we inform the people of the necessities, food, clothing, and shelter. So really, Mrs. McDonald here is going to be kicking it off,
right?
Because she's covering multiple bases in that regard, you know. And I'm gonna let her formally introduce what she's been up to and kind of bring us up to speed so we can continue the conversation on what these action items is she has for the community now. But you know, she started, you know, sort of with the Buy Back the Block initiative, making sure folks know about development and things that's happening, particularly in the Fifeville neighborhood, and how we can be involved and how we can take ownership and make sure that we man the seats at the table in that decision making. And then here recently, some of y'all may have seen her at, I believe, a city council meeting talking about the community food co-op. Right. So she's bridging those gaps right there.
I see.
Shelter and food.
Good work.
Then I'm gonna kick it over to you. Let you know, for the folks that don't know, like Razor was and you were chatting during the break as we were prepping to come on air, and folks have heard about the work, but I'm sure there's some gray area, some uncertainty as far as like who are the power players, who are you know, the folks, the decision makers at the table. So start from the beginning of this initiative when it comes to the work that you're doing in the community, and you know, kind of bring us up to speed.
Yeah, okay, that's a lot. Let me hit a couple points there. First is a way of introducing myself. So I am Deanna McDonald. I am the founder and owner of RN Heartwork, health education, coaching, and consulting, and I do a lot of health advocacy. So I am a registered nurse by trade. So I came to this conversation around the Fifeville corridor as it relates to health disparities and social disparities and all of the things that bring us together, that food, health, clothing, shelter, right? So as a nurse, whole well-being. So the Fifeville Neighborhood Association has been in partnership with the city for a long time about what's going on in that corridor.
Okay.
So you guys know UVA just bought Oak Lawn, which was the plantation. The Fife family, i.e. the Fifeville Neighborhood Association, owned that plantation. After sharecropping, then it became Black neighborhood, right? So the first deeds were Black people in this area, right? So that is where the landscape of this is. And it has been, that it has suffered from disinvestment and disenfranchisement, low wealth, low access area, right? And then you have the encroaching of the university that continues, right? So we still have that happening. And so there was the Cherry Avenue Visioning Project, right? So we're talking about Tonsler Park, we're talking about recreation, we're talking about youth, we're talking about what we see in the corridor when they put up the marker. This is a historically Black neighborhood, all of those things to recognize. And so the Fifeville Neighborhood Association has been in that conversation. And there was this vision plan, a small area plan that, it became a part of the Cherry Avenue project, right? With the city, that initiative. Out of that were some priorities: affordable housing, food justice, and recreation for children, right? And so they've been working on that. So the whole Townsville Park path, all of those things. And then there's this redevelopment that comes, and there's a company that wants to come in and buy this property, the former Estes, old Estes IGA. But in order to get a grocery store in there, you got to do some rezoning, right? And in order to get the rezoning, you got to get the community to be on board, right?
And does the company that wants to buy the property also want to put a grocery store there?
Well,
am I jumping ahead?
What I can say is that the company that wants to buy the property has said that they want to do some things to help the community. That I can say that clearly. That's in writing. In that conversation with the Fifeville Neighborhood Association, the priorities of the community came to the forefront, right? And so those priorities were like, we don't want tall buildings in the community, right? So that affordable housing had to come down to meet some of those parameters. We want a grocery store back. We need affordable food in the area. So there was a part of the conversation. And as such, a part of the proffer with the city was that there would be the space held for a grocery store until the certificate of occupancy, which is expected around 2027. So that's a whole lot, right? So when I came to the conversation in 2023, it was just with the Fifeville Neighborhood Association that says, I'm talking about health, I'm talking about our community, I'm talking about what can we do to move this forward? What does this community specifically want? Now, while I don't live in Fifeville, a lot of my family lives there, right? So right across the street from the park, I spend summers always at the park, so a lot of my family is there. When we talk about West Haven, a lot of my family is there, right? So this whole corridor that has suffered this displacement and marginalization speaks to me, to my heart. So this is my heart's work, literally. And
Charlottesville is small enough,
right,
to where like this affects the entirety, not only the city, but I would say the surrounding areas as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like Absolutely. It's not like we're isolated.
Right. Well, when you talk about affecting the surrounding areas, when we talk about displacement, where did they go? They went to the county. If you can't afford to live in the city, you're displaced to the county, right? When we talk about the Tonsler League and people being welcome in that corridor, right? When we talk about all of the activity that is there is zero Black ownership, commercial ownership in that corridor. Historically Black area, zero Black ownership, commercial Black ownership in that corridor. They rent.
Thank you for saying that, because I was about to say somebody gonna get upset by you saying that, but I got your point. Like there's business owners, but as far as property, right? Like business, commercial property.
Absolutely, right? And ownership, because ownership is about also the power dynamics, right? Having a voice. You own it, your dollars pay for it. Let's talk about it. So out of all of that, we did this. So when I was in conversation with the Fifeville Neighborhood Association, I'm saying, hey, we need to do community engagement and real community engagement. There has been some community engagement before, right? But what I can say, and I don't say often enough, is there has not been community engagement like the one that my company, RN Heartwork, did here in the city in the last 6 months of 2024. Right? Where you're really engaging the community, where you're really going to them and you're really hearing from them and you're really telling their story and really going with their narrative, right? Not going in and saying, oh, tell us what you want us to do, all the while knowing already what you're going to do, right? This is real, authentic engagement. And when I say I come and I use my social capital and tell the people, hey, I want to hear from you. I really do want to hear from you. And no, I'm not anybody's puppet, which is a challenge, right? Because people want you to go according to what their priorities are, right? My priorities are my people. And that's all people, right? All colors, creeds, whatever. That's all people. I'm a nurse by trade. I am responsible to care for all people. However, Fifeville is about Black people. Fifeville is still over 50% Black.
So tell me again. So the city, I don't know if you finished that thought. The city agreed to
the rezoning.
Yes.
There's this proffer for the grocery store to hold the space until 2025, until the certificate of occupancy, which is expected in 2027.
Okay.
We're at a pressure point though, right? Because they're talking about breaking ground in summer of 2025.
Okay.
This is where the conversation gets a little convoluted, right? So my understanding of a proffer is it's voluntary, right? The developer didn't have to, right? But they wanted something. The people want something, so let's come to agreement. But my understanding of the proffer is like land, right? So they said this land, this space is going to be held for a grocery store. The people understood that meant the developer was going to put in a grocery store. We walked this conversation back during the community engagement, and what they said is, y'all can buy a space for a grocery store to the tune of $3 million just to get a box, and you need a $1.5 million to actually get the fittings for a grocery store. So we're talking about $4.5 million in total. When I started having conversations with the powers that be, donors, philanthropy groups, and all of that, they said, why are you asking for $3 million when you need 4.5? If you get to $3 million, the people and you don't put a grocery store in there, the people are going to say, we gave you the money. What did you do? It's because we didn't ask for what we really needed.
Okay.
Right. And that's a part of the Piedmont Housing Alliance conversation, because they're the ones putting in the affordable housing. Right. So if Piedmont could roll the grocery store into their ownership, right, then perhaps there could be some subsidy for whoever operates the grocery store, because Piedmont is not going to operate a grocery store. They would just be owning, and you still have to have an operator come in.
Have you found that to be satisfactory amongst the community? Meaning, do people feel like that PHA represents the community to a level to where that would be like, yes, we own that? And I get what you're saying, like the subsidies, people feel like, yes, we'll buy into that because PHA can kind of front, the lump sum, and then we'll buy into it. Or are people not that excited in PHA leading that? If they do, it could be somebody else, right?
And I will say that by and large, it was like overwhelming, like, oh, PHA is going to do this. Oh, we can't do this. We don't know anything about a grocery store. Somebody else needs to do it. And then as we started educating the people about what this means and what that looks like, if PHA owns it, that's like a 20-year ownership, right? And then we can look at whether or not they can hand it off, right? And what that looks like later, 20 years down the line. Maybe, do you have the right contracts to hand it off, right? All of those things. But then as people started understanding, wait a minute, we can own it? Wait a minute, you mean the community can own a grocery store? They really did not understand that the community could own a grocery store. They didn't understand what a co-op was. So we had to bring education about that.
So, okay, can you give us a quick summary of what that is? Because I'm not sure that I completely understand either. And I also want to know what PHA has to say about all this. Are they game for potentially owning the grocery store?
Yes, and.
That's a lot. I know we're covering a lot of ground real fast.
Right. So PHA's, one thing to remember, PHA's priority is housing,
right?
Affordable housing, right? What is priority is development. That's what they do, right? So the grocery store happens to be a priority for all people. So when we talk about affordable housing, when we talk about disparities, social disparities, food is a part of that, right? If you put people there and they can't eat, then you still got to worry about their health, right? So PHA has an understanding of that, but PHA was not in the market to purchase a grocery store. But it was like, okay, how can we get all of these things to work together? How can the group work together and partner to get us there? Now, but PHA's priority are affordable housing.
Okay. And then a food co-op, as far as the community actually owning the co-op.
Right. So the co-op model is one vote, one share, right? You buy ownership, you buy a share in the co-op. So that is, let's just say the ownership share is $200.
Okay.
That is lifetime ownership. Okay. You bought a share of the company. Ideally, you have to sell thousands and thousands of shares to build up the capital to get this grocery store. There are models all around us that get some capital funding from different sources. So those sources look like the city, right? And different municipalities. We brought Gem City Co-op leadership here that they just did it in a low wealth, low access Lila community up in Ohio, right? To bring affordable grocery there. And we brought them here and they were like, so the health department, the hospitals, the universities, they partnered in it and they contributed capital too. Why? Because this is about community health. It's all tied in together, right? So they were like, you guys should look at the city, look at UVA, look at Centera, look at the other things to help you get this funding stack. Then we partnered and went out to research a group called Locus over in Richmond. And so they also do a part of this work and help people find capital sources and funding stacks for community work and community initiatives. So the pieces are coming together to say a co-op is possible. It's not that Black people or Charlottesville community people can't own this grocery. They can't come up with $4 million, right? And it's also not charity. It's not that the city is going to have to keep propping this up for forever, right? Because once the grocery store starts making revenue, then those revenues keep going back in. And then at some point, when there are enough profits, the people who bought ownership, that ownership entitles them to their share of the profits, right? That's the ownership model. Also, a community-owned grocery store is a hub, right? You got to vote. You get to vote on what the store carries. You get to vote on who runs the store, who operates the store. Your vote matters. So that is shifting power dynamics that people are not really used to having. Like, wait a minute, I don't even know. And can we talk about just being real? A lot of Black people are like, I'm not going to have the chance to own anything. Here is an opportunity. You don't have to come up with the $200 all at once. There can be a payment plan and there could be subsidies. So the one up in Ohio, they subsidize. So if anybody is getting SNAP or things like that, instead of having to pay there, which I think was $100 a membership share, they had to pay $10. Right. So you still, there's equity in the ownership, right? Not equal. Everybody got to pay 100, right? What can you pay, right? And still be a part of this ownership model.
What's the primary grocery store source for a lot of the people that live in that neighborhood now? Where are they shopping at now for the groceries?
Well, with Reed's just closing, a lot of that is Food Lion, Kroger, you know, the outliers. When I was doing this community engagement work and we're talking about bringing a grocery store back to Cherry Avenue, there were so many people, particularly in our housing developments, that were like, man, I'll be able to walk to the grocery store. Man, you know, if I got to put my kids on the bus, what can I buy? I got to buy stuff in cans, stuff that's preservable, that can get from, you know, that hour trek. I got to wait for a bus in the heat, whatever. You know, what it affects what they buy. They're not buying fresh produce that's going to be all beat up. I'm going to be mad at the kid because they dropped the bag, you know, got my lettuce all over the ground, my tomatoes, right?
Bruising my tomatoes.
Yes, all of that. They were really invigorated and excited about this. And the other part about this is self-empowerment and self-enlightenment, because they were like, wait, so we can work with it. Wait, that's another job source for us. We can work here. That was what the people were saying.
So I have a question though, when you talk about revenue, I don't know all the details about the reasons why Reed went out of business, but in terms of sustainability of bringing a grocery store, a food co-op to the Fifeville area, do you think what's the projections as far as it even being able to be sustainable?
That's a good question.
Mhm.
So part of the work that the co-op is doing right now. So let me just be clear. The co-op is not the choice right now. There is
Okay.
a statement. I want to read it verbatim
Okay. That's good.
from the Fifeville Neighborhood Association, because we got to make sure we get it right.
Mhm.
The statement says, conceptually, a locally based co-op is the strongest fit for the community, given its alignment with the community engagement outcomes that demonstrated preference for a co-op store or with deep roots in the community. That is the strongest
Okay.
that they said is for its community fit.
Mhm.
They also, people hear this conversation about Good Foods Grocery, a store out of Richmond. They also said it has the potential
Okay.
to be. Good Foods does not have community roots. Good Foods does not have an affordability model. And Good Foods does not have accessing to the programming that the community has said they want here. Now, Good Foods does have a model that works with people who have autism. And so they do have a nonprofit model. It's a health food store, natural food store. That's not the price point that the Fifeville Neighborhood Association is saying that they're looking for or wanted, or the Fifeville neighborhood community is saying. And also a part of that community work was the Rose Hill neighborhood, the Ridge Street neighborhood, the 10th and Page neighborhood, which all these included some of our housing developments, right? All of these were connected, because when we talk about Vinegar Hill, raise, right? And that separation and division, right? So these are one big community essentially that have been divided. So these sister communities, all of these people have spoke up and said, we would like the community owned, we would like the deep roots, we would like to support that. Out of that came 25 community members that have been working, and they've been working on the business model, because you got to present to Woodard what that business model looks like. And that's called like a pro forma and a business plan, right? You got to get the numbers.
So
Out
those
of the community,
25 are not just Fifeville.
they are not just Fifeville. They are Fifeville people. You got Fifeville, you got 10th and Page, you got some of the surrounding. And that's an important part of the conversation, because we bring all people to the conversation, because our community is diverse. Our community does have a lot to offer. And without partnership, we're not going anywhere, right? This is not about separation and division.
Yeah. So something Razor said a while ago. So why not save Reeds?
So now I'm only going to be able to tell you what I know.
Okay.
And what I know is
that's good.
What you heard.
Woodard, in that partnership, Fifeville, Woodard, PHA, reached out to Reeds during this engagement. And the response that came back was that Reeds was not interested in, they didn't have the capacity to any of those things in the makeup of what this development looked like. Now, as far as I understand, there was no conversation to go back to them and say, can we put the grocery store over there? Can we work together in that way? That's just as far as my limited knowledge.
Okay.
What I can say is that the co-op has been reaching out to Reeds to see what kind of partnership there can be now, right? Because there's some people that don't have jobs now, right? This store is going to need a general manager. Maybe some of those people can work in this store for the co-op, right?
All right. I have, with all the work, part of certain things that you do with this. But what I'm tending to lean towards is the apprehension is because there is too much Black involvement too high up. And I see it's almost like fear-based. Now, that's just Razor's interpretation. That's not the show. That's not the radio station, anything else. But when I'm looking at it, it's like everybody that has the power to make this happen is only allowed so much power in this, which is the problem. And we're already talking about too many people that look like me are losing their homes and other people are moving in. So therefore, when it comes to the co-op model, the amount of people that's able to invest in it that live in that neighborhood, that number is decreasing month by month because, like you said, people are getting displaced out to the county. And then once you move out to the county with a different residence, you no longer have the exact involvement with Fifeville. And it's almost like there's a part in the book Art of War that is used upon us all the time. When you start to do something, just stand back, let them disperse, let them go on back home, and then you just go ahead and move forward anyway, right?
Divide and conquer.
That's what I'm seeing when it comes to this, right? But I also understand to get on the mountaintops and scream this without the backing of the people that you're trying to help is going to leave you isolated and attacked.
Right.
So I commend you for what you're doing, right? But it's almost like the question needs to be asked, okay, if we give another percentage of control to somebody, would somebody step up? And I believe hands would start to raise, but they can't do that because of things that like what happened with Dairy Market. Once old boy lied about what he was going to do and everybody came against him, you know, nobody wants to be the next one to go through that. That's just Razor's interpretation of what I saw. So
you raised a couple points there. So you talk about Black leadership. We're talking about 2025 America. Is Black leadership still a challenge? Yes. Do I feel many times a target on my back as a Black woman, a small business, being a leader in this conversation? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. And I still need to do it. Period. Right? That's my responsibility. That's my heart, my purpose, my mission. When I go to sleep at night, I know I did the right thing. There are several people who support what I do. When you talk about the people and doing what the people want, we're centered in Fifeville, the Fifeville Neighborhood Association. Carmelita Wood is the president of the Fifeville Neighborhood Association. She is the treasurer for the forming Charlottesville Food Co-op. She believes in the community-owned model. She's a part and working towards. The Fifeville Neighborhood Association came up with a set of values for this community engagement. That set of values centered repair to the Black community, leadership and ownership as a way of repair to the Black community. So these people, Fifeville, the Fifeville community, stated what they wanted. They are a part of that partnership with Woodard and PHA, and they still have to stand on their power in that partnership and still do what the community wants. Now, we know partnerships mean give and take, right? Got to give, got to somewhere. But what level of compromise do we compromise? And that's what Fifeville is figuring out. But I will tell you also, we need the people to continue showing up. When you talk about displacement and people going back to their, places, you got to keep showing up. You got to keep going to support Fifeville. And you also got to not buy into that division that they'll say, oh, we got more people in the room than other than just Fifeville. If you don't live in Fifeville, you don't have a say. No, I still have a say. I still come through this corridor. I still work in this corridor. I bring my kids to the park at this corridor. I still have a voice in this conversation. And I support what the people that are still here are doing. And I support them not losing their homes. I support trying to help with these power dynamics. But I wanted to get back to the money because it all comes down to money, right? So as a part of the community engagement work, a feasibility study was done, right? Is a market feasible in that corridor? That feasibility study was done just on the conventional makeup. So like things that you like to see, like, your water, your Bush's baked beans, all of those things, right? The good foods model, as I said, is a natural foods model, health foods model, right? When we talk about diversity of community and cultural fit, the steering committee, the co-op steering committee decided to do a 50-50 pro forma. So we're looking at conventional and natural foods, right? Because we want to meet the needs of all people, right? So that you can get your, staples that you're looking for, right? But we do know that there's a price point when we talk about that health foods, natural foods model that can help balance out and help with the affordability model. So we are actively working in that conversation. Also, if the co-op is a part of the national co-op of grocers, right? So now you got buying power, right? So why can't some of the small mom and pops make it? Because they don't have that national chain discount. You become a part of the National Co-op of Grocers. Now you're a part of that national chain. You get their discounts, right? So then you get some of their bulk things. So these are things that you can provide. Also a part of this conversation, which again, I want people to understand, you got to reach across the aisle. We cannot be like our Congress is. And I know that's a controversial statement to say, but I'm just going to say it. This is about reaching across the aisle. On this steering committee are people who are farmers, who are talking about they can help get their wares into the grocery store. So now we're talking about local economic wealth building. Because again, bringing somebody else in, those dollars are going outside of Charlottesville. Now we're talking about keeping the dollars circulating in Charlottesville. We're helping the farmers. We're increasing jobs. We're helping people stay in community, right? Because also the Estes grocery store was a community hub, right? We can do some education. We can teach people about jobs in this model here. We can teach them about grocery, retail. We can teach them about health benefits of the food that they eat, right? You hear people talking about, oh, SNAP, the government is trying to decide what they can get with their SNAP benefits. You can't get junk food or whatever, right? How about educating them first? When you know better, you do better, right? So there's a lot of conversation in that. But the conversation around money is happening. The Food Steering Committee, they're working with the SBDC to get their business plan right so that they make sure they have that business plan ready for Wooded Properties. They're working with experts in the field, in the food co-op industry to get that pro forma right. Now, there was this timeline that was presented that was not reasonable. I ain't gonna hold you. It was not reasonable. It was not agreed upon, but the developer group said you got this amount of time to get that to us. These people are working. So there's this one pager that says where those people are now. They are working on the proposal package. It's due February 28th. So this coming Friday. They have, with my facilitation, they have formed a governance structure. So they have committees that they're working on. They got a treasurer, they got a secretary, they got a chair. They are working with subcommittees. They have a funding group that's working on building donor partners and philanthropy partners and finding where the dollars are. They have a membership committee because we need to keep the people engaged. And we also, a big part of my thing, my people perish for lack of knowledge. You got to continue to educate the people because the misinformation that is out there, we still have to keep working at, going at. There was a conversation recently about why did we go to city council? Why was I at city council? One, Carmelita Wood sent an email to the city council that said I was going to be coming, sharing the results of the community engagement, and that I would be sharing on the co-op, right? So council wasn't like unaware. And if they're in touch with their constituents, guess what? They know this 6-month community engagement has been happening, right? So this wasn't a bombardment, but it was.
And you're asking the city to support
the
program
financially. Right. Yeah. So the people in the city said, hey, excuse me, let me be clear. FNA said, we realized that there are some dollars available in the city and we're going to put in an ask to see if the city can help subsidize the grocery store because the grocery store is above market rate right now. So they're saying nobody's going to be able to afford a grocery store at the rate that it's being sold for now. So what you going to do with that? Right. So then the people start talking about the community gets concerned about a bait and switch. Oh, you told us you were going to do this. We went and supported it. And then now you're going to tell us it's too expensive to do. Right. Well, I wholeheartedly believe because you got to have faith in people. I wholeheartedly believe that Woodard is trying to do what they said. They want to help with some of the community's needs. They didn't say they were going to fix them. They didn't say all of them. They said some. I wholeheartedly believe PHA wants to help with the affordable housing. When we talk about food, other health needs, the community has to be empowered to stand up for self. And that is what this co-op model does. It creates self-empowerment.
Is there an MOA like amongst the entities?
So there is a MOU.
Okay.
Right. So there is a MOU between the partners. And that basically, you hear people say, oh, this unique agreement has never happened. Okay. So why did we come to the table? Because it wasn't going to happen if they didn't get this agreement, right? There was going to be no rezoning. There was going to be a redevelopment. And I also should say one of the driving factors for Woodard is that their community buy-in really is about the Music Resource Center.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to create a home for the Music Resource Center. So that's also in this development. So it's not that they're not doing what the community wanted, right? But the community's got to get us the rest of the way. And that's what they're doing. That's what this co-op model says. We're trying to get the rest of the way. When we go to city council, and I believe somewhere in the middle is where people should land, right? So when you go to city council, when PHA is going to city council, when Woodard is asking for the things that they need, the people are going to have to come to a compromise in the middle. I think the best compromise is a place where the dollars support what the community has said they want up front. This is what the community has said. There's overwhelming evidence. The Equity Center at UVA helped with this quantitative data, right? So there's no question. The numbers are the numbers. The people said what they said. So having that evidence and that support, I believe that the community can support the co-op, should earmark the dollars for the co-op, which was my ask. If they contribute money to subsidize the space, that they can earmark those dollars for the co-op, to give the co-op time to get all of these things going. They have the expert relationships. They're doing the work. It's coming along at lightning speed, and allow a place for pivot, right? We are in an uncertain environment, right? Nationally, right? So, and allow a place to pivot that the community gets essentially the first right of refusal. If it comes out that they can't make the dollars make sense for community and they say, hey, this model wouldn't work, be transparent with the community. That's one thing I like about what the city manager said. He said he believes in transparent government.
Not to butt in, but I do have to agree with Charles on that MOA as opposed to that MOU, because you plainly stated that there are things that they need to see. And you do have faith, but at the end of the day, this comes down to be a business deal because it's about dollars. So you, instead of having a memorandum of understanding, you need to have a memorandum where they get their A in order.
I do, but again, I think, you know, as opposed to this being an adversarial conversation, and a lot of times people hear me stand up and come strong, and I say, hey, I need questions answered. Don't nobody want to be questioned, right? But this is about critical thinking. Right? I need to understand the why. I need the root cause analysis. How did we get here? What does that proffer really mean? Because one of the conversations that we had in our developer forum that was about community building trust, the community doesn't trust Woodard, right? I said, come have this conversation with the community, tell them exactly where you stand and what it is. They put it in writing. One of the questions we have is, was this a land proffer? Because if it was a land proffer, then why is a part of the price include the land cost? Right? Maybe that's a lack of understanding on my part and a lot of community members, right? They also said that they could be the leaseholder, that they could rent it. The rent would be higher than market rate, but they could be the leaseholder. So then why do we need to come up with the $3 million for the space or $4.5 million for the space if they could build it and rent it out? Why do you need to have that in February or March if they said that they could hold it and be the renter? So we got to get some understanding. It's not about trying to catch somebody. It's about clarity.
And that's actually speaks to the question I had, because if this food co-op gets in place in the model that you and your organizers foresee it, and then at some point in the distant future, everything blows up and goes to heck, who then would take ownership or have ownership of the co-op?
So that is another question that has come out even in before the blow up, right? What if, like, some people are like, oh, it'll take like 3 years for a co-op. Well, it's going to take 2 years to build a building, right? But they were like, could this be a place for the city market? Could the farmers go into this space and be the renters of the space until? Could be not. Are there other uses for the space until you can get the grocery store in there? Could be not. I I don't know if y'all watch the NAACP Image Awards, but I wanted to get this quote right because people are often trying to push things out to the periphery. Like, we'll do it later. We'll see about it. We'll, work on it and do it later. But the time is now, right? W.E. Du Bois said, now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done and not some future day or future year.
Right.
Right.
It's never a good time.
Right. The city manager is talking about the homelessness situation, right? When we talk about unhoused people and the possibility of them now being placed in Fifeville as a part of a work, because it's not going to solve it, right? But when we talk about it could be a possible contribution to the solution of homelessness, where are those people going to shop? Are they going to shop at Good Food? Right? So a community-owned grocery store that is working to meet the affordability factor also supports that as well, right? There's going to be conflict.
Absolutely.
Where can we come to compromise?
Yeah. And within a lot of what you're saying too, which I'm so glad you said at the beginning of your comments about, how hard it is, but you still have to do the work.
Yes.
Which is a lot of what we experience, and we talk about a lot on this show, is that a lot of our jadedness and our lack of trust and things like that is because of, how things have gone wrong in the past, or because of how certain players have taken advantage of situations or have been dishonest, right? But but as you said, that doesn't mean we just stop and don't do nothing.
That is,
what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so, and I say that for our listeners' sake, because it's like, I'm positive, because I've heard it said to me, there's somebody listening to this right now saying, oh, who she thinks she is. Them people ain't gonna let her do that. You know it, right? And so, but it's a matter of we having to continue these conversations. We have to speak truth to power, through all that doubt.
And I want to also say, right, when we talk about UVA, should they contribute, right?
Absolutely.
There's a whole lot of people that work for UVA, right? Some of them people might want to work on this project and be like, they talking about UVA. That puts my job in, right? So people have their own set of priorities. They have to defend themselves, protect themselves, right? But when we talk about a community-owned grocery store, should that be a decision they have to make? So are the power structures wielding their power inappropriately? Right? And then, as we talk about Black History Month, and I know y'all, I'm going to be on the chopping block for this, but as we talk about Black History Month, you mentioned we have this month, we have this time, we have this season. We got to keep on keeping on. We got to stay in the fight. This is that when I tell you I came to this conversation in 2023, it didn't start in 24, it didn't start in 25. You got to continue to do the work. You asked the question, Razor, earlier, like, who's doing this work? Is PHA paying for it? Is Woodard paying for it? Absolutely not. This is work that my company partnered with the FNA on, and we went and got a grant from CACF that said, we need to invest in our people and hear what our people have to say. CACF was a wonderful community partner in that way. We believe the city can be a community partner in helping contribute to the grocery store, and that others will come along, right? You need one to step out and say, I have faith, will help, right? Small businesses, community, but this is where the money should actually be.
And we have to be willing and understand that we can thrive, like you said, by reaching across the aisle.
Yes.
And not be scared of that. Because a lot of times, as soon as somebody else comes to the table that's not one of us, sometimes we get it in our head, oh, well, like now they're in control, or like now it's no longer Black led or Black owned, which is not the case. Because we all know, like to suffice and to be sustainable, like you got to reach across every aisle.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you relinquish your control.
That part, because the allies, there are several people that are not Black or people of color on the steering committee, but they also agree with the priorities and the values, right? So how can people support what you're saying also? But now, I'm not going to sit here and act like the bully effect does not come into place. I appreciate Razor saying, what can you tell us and not make enemies? Right? One, I'm going to tell you the truth. Two, I will come back and say, if I got it wrong, right? Maybe I didn't understand. Maybe I didn't get it right. There's room for understanding, room for improving. I'm educating myself every day. I encourage our people to educate themselves every day. But I also encourage our people not to be bullied. Not to be afraid of the pushback.
And if I can follow up on that, I was thinking about this as y'all were talking about just the fearfulness, of when our community and leaders in our community decide to be leaders or spearhead certain projects or certain things that benefit us specifically, and the pushback that comes against that. And I feel like there's always like this spirit of fear, if you will, that comes up amongst our community. Whenever we try to do this, is a big deal, right?
It is.
It's a really big deal, and for lack of point of reference, or for people who have lived through many generations and seen the challenges and barriers that our people are faced with whenever we try to do something, or accepting defeat, right? And just saying they're not going to let us do it, or because it's something that's being led by Black people, it's just not possible, right? Let's just be frank about this. There are those of us who believe that it's just not possible, simply because of the fact that we are Black people doing things for ourselves, right? And I said all that to say that we got to change that mindset.
Yes.
We didn't. Fortunately, there were enough of us to not think like that, to get us to the point that we are right here today. All those freedoms and liberties and choices and different things like that you do have, not saying that we still don't have a ways to go, but that you do have, is because people did not think along those lines. They did dare or were brave enough to push back on people who said, no, you can't, or you shouldn't. And I just want to challenge people to not view this opportunity and this idea in that same vein, right? Thank you to you and to those who are supporting this project and working right alongside you to get this to the point that it's at. But you can't do it without support. And at some point, we as a people have to stop always, before we'll do anything, asking for permission. And I think that's coming. I mean, I'm getting a sense of that in the way that you're talking about this, but we have to stop asking for permission. This is what I want. It's going to take hard work, you know. You got to be ready for the fight and what may come with it. But you got to stop asking for permission, because they sure ain't. Like, when I want to do it, tell me how, tell me who, tell me which mountain I got to climb. And that's where I'm going.
Yes.
And it's the mindset that we need more of collectively and individually as Black people.
And I also just want to say that the steering committee is multi-generational, which is also amazing. We got people from 24 to 70 working on this work, right? So this is important for the next generations and other generations to come. And they're learning from the experienced people that have been in this world a little bit longer, right? That's also a very important part. Something else you said, victory is not guaranteed.
Right.
Kamala Harris said that.
Look, but try that S anyway. You got me?
Right? Not guaranteed, but the fight is worth it, right? If you see a good fight, get in it.
And so, Deanna, we are out of time, but thank you for joining us. But as we close, I want to make sure that you let the folks know whatever the next steps are, the action items, like what to look out for, what to get involved in. But just quickly too, I had to ask you, when it comes to UVA Health and Woodard, if their community partners, have they been called out for not making sure that what they are offering is actually under market value, right? For the sake of the community, being a good community partner. And in the health part, is UVA Health being asked to participate in any sort of way when it comes to the healthcare focus of this?
So I'm gonna give you the short version.
Okay.
The short version is no large entity has come to contribute to this work and to this effort other than CACF, who contributed $90,000 for the community engagement grant.
Okay.
Period. Now, there are some other small things that have happened because the World Foundation contributed a small grant to keep the momentum going. So there are some other people who are saying we want to see this work continue, and so now that this community is forming, they will continue to build those partners. But at this time, UVA has declined. At this time, Centera has not made a commitment either. At this time, likewise, the city. I do expect to have a conversation with the city manager. I love that he's so open and transparent. Like he might say no, he might say yes, right? But I got to get to the table and ask the question.
Right.
So that's the important thing. So what do those things look like? Showing up at the city council meetings, right? Hopefully we're going to get on the agenda. That's not a guarantee either, but I believe the city council members agree with this and want to hear from the community at minimum. Show up at the city council meetings, show up at the Fifeville Neighborhood Association meetings every second Thursday of the month. RN Heartwork is my company. You can reach me at RN as in registered nurse, Heartwork, HEART as in Tom, RNHeartwork@gmail.com. RNHeartwork@gmail.com. If you want to join the steering committee, if you want to, we have ad hoc committees, right? A lot of times people don't do this work because of lack of capacity, right? So if you have capacity for a certain project, we appreciate that too.
Right.
So if you want to come out, you can also reach me directly, 434-218-0740. And onward, we're going to keep pushing.
Okay.
Let's do it. Good stuff. Thank you, Deanne.
Thank you.
As always, good information.
It was.
Packed a lot in that hour.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Thank you again for joining us on the show and I'm sure some people have never even, heard about what you got going on. So thank you for informing the people. And I hope that folks will reach out and figure out how they can best help support your project.
Thank you.
The project.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that. And also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
You know what it is. Hashtag IMHO Talk Show on all your favorite platforms. Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Razor.
That's right. Like we never left. Middle of the show, second hour. And we're gonna keep making it do what it do, keep informing the people. Man, that's a lot to follow up on from that last hour, last guest. That was jam packed with information. You know how we do, and then in true form and format, we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna turn the corner, get in a little more entertainment, little business, because it is 2025. It's 2025, and I know people know that that Uptown Growl right there, none other than Ty Cooper, Life View Marketing, the Short Shot, so on and so forth. Eco Dry Cleaners, Throwback, all that good stuff.
No, I still own that.
Okay, excuse me.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah,
flex on them, Ty.
Everything but the band.
Yeah.
Oh man, so as we said, we are rounding the corner to March 2025. It's already Pisces season. My birthday is next week. Can't wait to see what Max and Razor get for me. But not only that, but at the end of March 21st through the 23rd, once again, the city is going to be taken over at many venues that you're about to learn about, and about all the resources going to be available, whether you are a film connoisseur or what have you, or whether you just want to go to a good festival, so on and so forth. I'm going to be entertained or informed. The Indie Short Film Festival in Charlottesville, March 21st through 23rd, over 80 short films. That you're going to have awards, discussions, competitions, table reads, a launch party, Sunday brunch. Man, this looks big. So without further ado, Ty Cooper, man, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We have some edits on that because I just programmed the whole festival, and we have like 107 films. So I want to make sure that's known, because that's a pretty big last year we screened 73, and this year it's over 100. So that's a big jump, and I didn't want to make that jump, man. But the films kept coming in. We had some good films. We had people that said that they want to travel down to Virginia, to Charlottesville, to the festival. So I was like, that's what I was doing all night last night. I'm doing all this morning. I'm still not quite finished, but because I wanted to announce. Well, I could still announce, but I wanted to be ready when I got here. That's why I got here a little bit late. But I'm just working around the clock on it. But it's a heavy duty. Yeah, it's a heavy duty film festival, and it's right here in Charlottesville.
Yeah, and just to let the folks know, not only are we gonna get your insight and about the film festival, but we got a couple of guests that's going to join us a little later as well. Like, go ahead and introduce them so folks know who we got coming.
We got, bro. If you guys watch TV. Particularly any show that's like filmed in New York in particular. I mean, other shows, but especially in New York, because they always call her. If you've seen Brown Sugar, the movie, if you've been on Broadway, you may have seen her. Her name is Rosalyn Coleman Williams, and she's she's a big dog. She's an actor, she's an acting coach, she's a writer, she's a director. And she comes with this big team. When I say big team, it's her and her husband, because her husband is an amazing writer. He's not on the show, but he'd probably be at the house. But they're going to be on. And then we have Cameron Carr, and Cameron Carr is from Harlem, so I had to show him a lot of love. He directed the film Harlem Fragments, which is being screened at the festival. Rosalyn, she's teaching a workshop at the festival. So that workshop is being taught Saturday morning, March 22nd. And Cameron's film is on March 22nd as well, By the Crown. So they're coming down, man, from New York, and I'm very happy that they just jumped at the opportunity to do that. So it made me feel good.
Yes, indeed, man. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So yet another year for 2025, March 21st, 23rd. Kind of take us through it, man. What stands out to you for this year? Like when you think about the 2025 Indie Short Film Festival, like what's exciting you the most right now about it?
Oh man, it's such an amazing weekend. Last year, it surpassed my expectations.
How so?
Because it was so successful, and and when you're doing something like a festival, we already had the Virginia Film Festival, right? And so this is the Indie Short Film Festival. So all the films are short films. So you don't really know necessarily if people going to really jump onto it, if people going to really travel in.
Mm-hmm.
So people travel from, well, I had submissions from 14 different countries.
Nice.
We, thank you. It sounds much better. So
You made his voice deeper.
Yeah, thank you. And we had people, like I said, traveling from around the country to actually be present. People flew in from California, Pittsburgh, Florida. I mean, so many different locations. So it really, and people came to the table. We had a table read. All this was like the first year of this big festival, you know, and 73 films were screened, amazing films. 20% of the films were from Sundance. 25% of the films were from Virginia filmmakers. And we had like a lot of diversity within the programming, you know, from Black communities, indigenous communities, white, Asian, throughout the world, you know. So it was really a good look. I was nervous the whole time, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like I've done many events. I did film festivals before in the past as well in Norfolk, Virginia, but this was different, you know. And yeah, and I received the support from the community, the local community, but also national. So I was so I didn't know what to expect at first.
Yeah, which is a great thing though, right? Because I heard it said that you should get butterflies. Butterflies mean that you still care and you still passionate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you have people like Jennifer Lopez, Christina Aguilera, and others, Lady Gaga, who gets super nervous before they hit the stage, but once they hit the stage, they get into it. So it's like the same thing. You know, I was nervous leading up to it, but once it came, I was like, all right, we in, we here, we walking, we loaded, and it was what it was. You know, it was great. I didn't see a lot of diversity in the audience that I wanted to see, you know, which was sad to me at that time because the programming represented that. You know, I had the programming to represent different communities, but you know, but some came out. You know, I didn't see Razor, but it's all good. Yeah,
shots fired.
Yeah, but you know, I talked to him that day. He said he would come and
we were trying. My better half had things to do, so I could not leave.
They didn't go past the buck. Oh,
hey, look, just like my brother Adam did on Eve. I'm gonna pass that. But no, hey, look, I got a question for you though, right?
Sure.
Is it called diversity when it's kind of you want Black people to be there, like you're kind of building something for us? Is it still called diversity at that point?
Yeah, I'm building. Well, my events and this particular event, the Indie Short Film Festival, is for everyone. So I want everyone to come. So just like the effort that I put forward towards, you know, having a Black programming such as the Black expressions in cinema, or when I have the panel discussion, the Black experience in American cinema, but I also have women in film. You know, and I have other categories, so I try to get different people to come. So it's always about diversity. It's all about the celebration of culture, you know, different culture. Inclusivity is not the celebration of different culture. That's the introduction and bringing people together. But when you have that true diversity, you have these sections, these subgroups within your event or within your presentation, and that's what diversity is about.
And just so y'all know, I was playing like I missed it because I missed it. It's not because Max did anything like that, but she was sitting right here, so I figured she would have straightened me, but she didn't.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was all on me. He had called me, and then I totally forgot.
Yeah. But don't forget now, you got a hat to remind you. It's on your head.
He gonna snatch that hat back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so go ahead and take us through it, Ty. And ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Ty Cooper. Website is indieshortfilmfestival.net. So you have off-screen events, you have workshops, there's merchandise, and you even give folks some tidbits on lodging. But let's kind of like maybe take your top, you know, like 2 or 3 from each thing. Like as far as the off-screen events, what does that entail this year?
Well, the off-screen events include everything that's not on screen. So the screenings, the movies, you know, all those movies, 100 plus films, that's on screen. But then off screen, you have the launch party, right? You can't have a festival without a party.
That's right.
Right. So we have a DJ, and then we booking a live band as well. That's at the Common House, right, on Friday evening, after the last sets of screenings. And then we have the next morning, Rosalyn Coleman Williams, you know, this phenomenal talent. She's teaching the acting workshop. It's a 3.5 hour workshop. So she's teaching that. So that's off screen. Then we have 5 panel discussions, and the panel discussions are free. Anyone could come to the panel discussions. But if you have a pass, then you have priority seating. right? So we have that. And those panels, we have guests coming in from out of town. We have local guests as well. Amazing filmmakers. Eric Hurt is local. He's on the crafts of filmmaking workshop, so kind of teaching you, kind of like, what cinematography is and what he looks for when he's doing films. And he shoots major films and major work with like Boeing, the airline and the airplane manufacturer and so forth. But long story short, so you have those, and then we have within the festival we have a screenwriting competition, and the top 3 screenplays get a table read. So the table read is when you have actors sitting on, well, typically it's a table, but they're sitting around, and then you have not necessarily, you don't have to have an audience, but we have an audience. We welcome the audience in, and they read the scripts, the top 3 scripts that were submitted, and they won cash. And when the screenwriter is present, and then once the screenplay is read, then you have they have opportunity to get feedback for their screen to make it better. And what we did last year, this movie called Fire Talker last year won 3rd place in the screenwriting competition. Had a table read. They came up from Georgia, and they actually made that movie, and they submitted that movie for screening in this festival. Yeah, and that's that's like a testimony right there that this is something that people want. So I'm just trying to deliver something that people want, and something that's not done here. So we have other, events, film events and so forth, but they don't no one has a table read and screenwriting competition. So I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I'm also trying to offer something that's not offered. And that's how I try to separate myself, my event from, other events. And we begin a lot of support from, different sponsors and so forth.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, what are you looking forward to seeing?
My film.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just.
All right. Tell us about it.
Yeah, yeah. My film. You remember Annette Banks? You guys interviewed her over the phone. She made the film. Oh my God, she's gonna kill me. Oh my God. It's
it was about the history of the Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Annette. I got a mind blank right now. You guys find that for me. I got to redeem myself, please. Freedom House Ambulance. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. So and she won seven Emmys so far, and so she brought this idea to me. She didn't do anything with it, but she brought the idea. Said, hey, this gentleman in Freedom House, he's this guy is very polarizing, and and he was part of the civil rights movement. Long story short, we continued talking about it. I did some research that she provided, and I was like, you know what, I'm definitely count me in. And so we split. We got the lawyer, and we was able to attain his rights, his life rights. And she and I, worked out our agreement, and we went half and half on everything, and we split our responsibilities. And she's truly my partner, but she's my friend. She was my friend first before being a partner. So long story short, we traveled to Mississippi, we traveled to Southwest Tennessee, Pittsburgh many times, and we got this piece about this gentleman named Salah Uddin. And he was a civil rights activist. He really sacrificed his life, sacrificed his family, sacrificed, those things that were close to him to really be part of the civil rights movement and make change in this world. And long story short, he went down to Mississippi pretty much almost immediately following the killing of the civil rights activists that was down there, the 3 civil rights activists. And he went down into Holmes County to be part of that fight, to take part and make a change. And by him doing that, he was there in Mississippi for 4 years, from 65 to 69. He fought against voter suppression, and really fought for equality. So by doing that, he put a target on his chest, and he was targeted by the FBI under the Hoover's administration, the COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program under Hoover, which was disbanded in the early 70s. But we have the redacted memorandum from the FBI, and about him, and they used this word various times throughout the memorandums about Salah. It was like, he must be neutralized. And if you know what neutralized means, There's 3 ways to neutralize. 1, you could try to destroy someone's reputation. 2, you could put them in jail. Or 3, the end result of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and many others. And luckily, he lived because he ended up going to jail. They end up using a friend of his, someone we don't know who that person is. He knows, but we don't know, to backdoor him and caught him with a gun in the trunk of a car, and all that. But so anyway, all that's in my documentary. Yeah, it's deep. It's on Saturday. That's going to screen during. We screened
What's
that
the name
twice.
of it again?
That is The Price of Resistance.
Okay.
Yeah, The Price of Resistance. The schedule going to go live tomorrow. So if you bought a pass, you'll be able to secure your individual tickets first, and then it opens up to the public on Wednesday.
Okay. Yeah. And have you seen it on the big screen yet, or are you more so looking?
I have a big screen in my house. So
this dude.
So I had to build that out, man. I got.
Let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase that though. Have you seen it in a theater yet? Or are you looking more forward to seeing the people's reaction?
Oh my God, y'all kill me, man. Y'all set me up.
Hey, I'm aware you out on Facebook, right?
He does this. No, but for real. At first, I've seen it in I have a screening room. I got a screening room built out.
Just say it.
I got a screening room built out. I'm a filmmaker. Every filmmaker needs a screening room in their house. So I got this 120-inch screen. So it looked really good on there. It's very intimate, close up. And then I put it on the movie theater as well, and I saw it up there, and I was like, "Yeah, this is amazing. This is good stuff, man." So we have a gym. We're not going to go up to try to get the an Emmy for it right now, because what we want to do is work the film festival circuit, and there's also
you get the buzz.
And there's also a certain time frame that you have to do it for this cycle, and we just weren't able to kind of put it, because it had to be available for people to see it. So I mean, it had to be on TV.
Okay.
And so we're going to work this year for the film festival circuit, and then we're going to put it on TV. But then probably within the Pittsburgh market, because the gentleman's from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I look forward to
Sounds
it.
interesting.
So and it's, instead of it debuting in Pittsburgh, it's debuting here in Charlottesville, where I live at, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It
is.
Yeah, I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of Annette, and I'm proud of the people who really give us opportunity to tell this story. It's all about storytelling. And when you have a Black story like this, it needs to be stated and need to be shared, because so many stories are out there like this that's not being shared. We hear Martin Luther King Jr., Edgar, we hear all these different people, but we don't hear of all those other people who were on the ground also doing work, going to jail, getting murdered, and just disrupting their family. And that's a place, we are in a location where I think, when I say location, I'm talking about theoretically, we are in a space where our rights are being someone trying to make America great again. So we really have to be conscious of the past and understand the past, so that it doesn't repeat itself. And I think this story here really talks to that.
Got you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by none other than Mr. Ty Cooper of the Indie Short Film Festival, coming up in Charlottesville, Virginia, March 21st through 23rd. And we got some more we're gonna close out with Ty with, but let's take a quick break, because Ty has a couple of guests that's joining us right now. None other than Miss Rosalyn Coleman Williams and Mr. Cameron Carr. So y'all don't want to miss it. Great artists and directors and producers and whatnot that we're going to have right here in our great city for the aspiring filmmakers or just film enthusiasts to learn a lot from and get to meet and greet. So stay tuned. Tell a friend. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. IMHO Talk Show. Hey, Rosalyn.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So yeah, so we're on a break, just about 2 minutes, and we'll be back on air.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Nice to meet you virtually.
Nice to meet you.
And Cameron, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. What's going on?
Good. We're good, man. Thank y'all for joining us here in my humble opinion talk show. We are based here in Charlottesville. We we have guests from everywhere, but we always bring it back. We make it relatable to Charlottesville and the area. So
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you all for joining us. And,
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yes, indeed. And I don't know if Todd told you, Rosalyn, but we actually, so every Valentine's we do a Black Love experience, which is a soiree and a symposium. So this year was a movie symposium, and we actually showed Brown Sugar.
Classic.
Yep.
Classic.
Yeah. That was the thing. So we got the community to vote on what classic Black love story did they want to see, and Brown Sugar got the votes. Yeah.
Yay.
Yep. So cool. So just give us about 1 minute, and we'll be back live with you. But if I'm muted and I can't hear you, you can type in the chat there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Animation in the first box that starts on Friday.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. To the Ism H to the Izzo Talk Show. Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
Still in the booth in the building with none other than Ty Cooper.
Yep.
Talking about this 2025 Indie Film Festival coming to Charlottesville, end of March 21st through 23rd. So much to do and see and learn, and to just enjoy, right?
That's right. Over 100 films, launch party with live performances, panel discussion, screenwriting competition, table reads, workshops, Sunday brunch awards, and more.
That's a big festival right there. I don't know who did that. I don't know who's the genius to do that. That's looking pretty good right here, right now. I'm telling you.
That's a deep, man. But you know what though? Speaking of which, successful people always have people around them that they feel are smarter and even more talented, right?
For sure, yeah, definitely. I have that around me.
And so, in saying that, go ahead and introduce our couple of guests that we have on air with us.
Oh yeah, I have my people now. Look, I'm gonna give you a little bit, very brief history. This woman, talented, amazing woman, super smart, yell, all that stuff, right? She make us look good. She makes me look good anyway. I met her. I had a film festival that I co-founded in Norfolk, Virginia. 2005, 20 years ago.
Okay.
She and her husband, which is my man too, his name is Craig Williams, extraordinarily talented writer.
Okay.
They came down there with a bassinet, this little baby in a bassinet 20 years ago. And this young man, he's a grown-up now, you know what I'm saying? And so I tapped her on the shoulder 20 years later, like, hey, I got this film festival that I'm doing. And I want you to be part of it. What are you doing? And I already knew what she was doing, but I wanted to kind of just hear what she was really more interested in. And, she told me some of the stuff that she was doing. I said, yes, I want to act in workshop here, blah, blah, blah. And we just worked it out. It's just that easy.
Nice.
But the thing about it, I kept in contact with them sporadically throughout the 20 years though. So it wasn't like a 20 years and then 20 years later, oh hey, hi, I'm still here, we're still alive.
Right.
But the energy, and they doing their thing, so it's hard to not see what they're doing. You know, she's on Broadway, she's doing all, you know, movies, writing, directing. Great team. So long story short, this is Rosalyn Coleman Williams. Many of you have seen her in Brown Sugar. But her record and her you know, her CV is extensive. So and we're gonna get into that. Yeah, you see it, right? You can't mention all that stuff. It's too much. She's an overachiever. I told you she went to Yale. But, and my guy Cameron Carr. I just met him. He was referred to by one of my associate programmers, Sam Hyatt. He's out in California, and he was like, "Hey, you know, there's this film that you might be interested in." I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's called Harlem Fragments." I said, "Yeah, sign it on. Give it to me. It's Harlem. I don't care how bad it is." You feel me? It's Harlem. I don't care. I didn't even see the film yet. I was like, "Nah, I don't have to see it. Just submit it." Right. And but I saw the film and I was like, "Yeah." I said, "He's cutting edge. The guy is like, he's very crafty and very his directorial decisions are poignant, you know, and in the word and poignant in the way of being able to project something and have your artists and have your actors really perform and stick the landing." And this film is yo, it made me homesick. You know what I'm saying? Which I knew it would, but it made me homesick. And I got jealous instantly. I was like, I need to go home. I need to make films in Harlem, you know. And so he represents us as well. So that's Cameron Carr.
That's what's up. Well, thank you all for joining us.
You like my introduction?
We are definitely humbled
by your job,
you all's presence.
Yeah.
No, you good, man. So Cameron and Rosalyn, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us. And Ty, thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Yeah, I try, you know. Right. You know. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us. This is incredible.
Welcome to the show.
Yes, indeed. And you know, in true Southern fashion, ladies first. So Rosalyn, as far as your involvement in Indie Film Festival, you know, first when you hear Charlottesville, Virginia, you know, I know you've known Ty, but I'm not sure how familiar you are with the area. But when he came to you with this idea of your participation and whatnot, what drew you to want to be a part of this year's Indie Short Film Festival?
Well, of course, Ty, but the idea of doing a workshop, of really like sharing my knowledge about what's going on and how the industry has changed, especially around like how we actors participate in the industry, because since the pandemic, auditioning has completely changed. Like we no longer go into the room at all. We like audition only by sending in tapes, or we do like Zoom auditions like this. Like this is how we interact with people. And so we have to completely figure out, how do we get jobs in this way? So we go from here to the set. So it's completely different. And so I want to help actors navigate that new space.
Nice.
And so Ty's giving me the opportunity to do a workshop to help actors do that. And that's kind of tricky, you know? And so I figured, like, let me share my knowledge, what I've learned, and, you know, the art of it, like how you can turn that into an art, because it is an art. And, you know, it's a new canvas for actors. So we really have to get as creative as we are on set and in our work, in our self-tapes. Like, you can't just stand there anymore, you know, like that's over, you know. It's no longer just a medium shot. Those days are over, you know. You have to get a hell of a lot more creative. Oh, I'm sorry, what?
Right. No, I was just going to say, it seems like it'd be much more difficult to audition that way, but just out of curiosity, does it in some way make things better?
You know, now people have gotten the swing of it, but the game is a lot more competitive now. Because what the pros are doing, and that's the secret sauce I have, is I have the tapes. I'm going to be sharing the tapes of people who got the job. So now if you come to the workshop, you're going to see what the people who are working do. So you're going to see, you can compare. You can compare what you're doing to what the people who get the job are doing. And you're going to see they do a hell of a lot more. And there are some simple things that you can do that'll make a big difference that help people see, like they can actually see you in the role. So,
and is this going to be catered to any particular demographic? Is like whether it's like level of experience or whether it's stage versus film?
it's going to be pretty much more so to SAG and AFTRA projects. So professional actors, but any level of experience, because acting is pretty much the only industry where you can literally walk in off the street and get a job. And we hate that. Let me just tell you, we actors hate that, but it's true. You know, basically, you know, celebrities can act, you know, you can hire an acting coach and you can get a job. You know, I went to Yale School of Drama, so I'm trained at the highest level, but I act with anybody. You know, I'll act with an animal. You know, you know, they teach animals how to act. Babies can act, so anybody can come. And I hate that, but it's true.
It's true. It's true.
Yes.
So
anybody, any level.
Got you. And so, Cameron, want to also give you the opportunity to, like, what excites you about being a part of this experience at the Indie Short Film Festival this year?
Man, well, I don't know. I'm about to just sign up for these acting classes because no, man, it's been an honor to even hear about this place. I think this is exactly what it's about. You know, when you're looking for festivals and places that will create those spaces, this is exactly the kind of space that champions your work and gives it a spotlight and a platform. Even as we are here on a Sunday right now, speaking to you guys, it's incredibly special. So, for me, when I was able to catch up with Ty and hear about the work that he's doing, that's really what I've been excited for. It's not just a showcase of all these spectacular films like you guys listed, but there's panels and workshops and stuff. So I'm all about that stuff. So that's exactly why I really try to hunt these places down. And of course, serendipitously when you're looking, Ty found me. So it's very much full circle in that sense.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Ty, anything you want to add as far as like tell us about like why specifically like these two colleagues and what you're hoping that folks get from this that they're bringing to the table.
Well, I mean, my goal is always to provide a platform for other people, right? So fellow filmmakers, artists, creatives, but also people who just have an interest. And when I think about talent and some of the things like when I saw Harlem Fragment, it's one thing when you could always get a film. He could Cameron could have just submitted his film and I would have screened it like I'm screening the other 100+ films. But when I saw it and I was like, wow, like, just the thought that went into every single decision on that set, I was like, let me learn more about him. You know what I'm saying? Let me interview him. So I interviewed him for my show. And then I was like, yeah, I want him to come down. His energy is amazing. And I go for, and I'm big on energy. There's a lot of actors, there's a lot of writers, a lot of directors. I go to Sundance every year for the past 10 years. I have no care in the world about what someone they do, their career title or whatever the case may be. I go for energy. And Rosalyn, what she got going on in her household, I'm not talking about professionally. I'm talking about in her household, her dynamic with her husband and her son. Yo, that's Black love right there. Black family, love, strong, solid. So, and then when I met Cam, the energy, man, he was just like so forward. And he told me his story about his mom and dad and how they bought their first brownstone. And then in his teenage years, they divorced and they lost the brownstone. They sold it, what have you. And now he's right back over there on that same street.
That's dope.
Like, yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? So that's those stories and the energy of that is why I got them too. And yes, there are others, but I'm fortunate enough to have these two human beings. And I try to surround myself, like you said earlier, with people who doing it and who have the experience and who may even be smarter than me or better than me or whatever you want to call it. And I think the closer I can get to these creatives, the better for me, And then I can also share that with Charlottesville and everyone who's going to come down, on March 21st through the 23rd.
Yeah. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So one of the things that y'all made me think of, Cameron and Rosalyn, I'd love to get both of you feedback on this, but Rosalyn, you had mentioned about, like that you'll act with anyone. And so I'm curious about because I noticed in you all's work, like you seem to have a strong care about representation, right? In film, particularly Black representation, right? So so I just wanted you all to kind of share with our listeners as far as like some of the key things that stand out in your experience, about the work you do, like when it comes to working with Black filmmakers or telling a Black story.
Well, that's a great question. One thing that stands out for me is that the last film I was in was Rob Peace. And I always think about being in film.
Who were you? I watched that.
Okay, so in Rob Peace,
yeah,
he makes friends with a lady who works at the college.
Yeah.
That's me.
Oh,
that was
okay.
Me. Yeah, and then
Nice.
and I remember when he gets the job at the cafeteria.
Yes.
And then I teach him how to work at the cafeteria. That's me.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Anyway,
Very nice. Very
I
nice.
think about films about people like years and years from now, when people remember what Black people were like. Someone's going to ask, "Hey, what were Black people in America like?" In the aughts, in the in the 50s, in the 2000s, and you want somebody to pick your film, your play, as a piece to say that's what Black people were like, and so they'll watch Brown Sugar, they'll watch the plays that I was in. They'll pick up those plays. They'll pick up Brown Sugar. They'll pick up Piano Lesson. They'll pick up Rob Peace. They'll pick up and they'll say that's what Black people were like. So
I don't know. You were the mean radio exec, right?
Yes, yeah, that was. And so you want to be in that canon. You want to be, some of your work wants to be in that canon that remembers what Black people were like, and you want to be sort of proud of that work. And you want to make films that are in that canon, and you want to be in that canon. Hopefully, that's sort of how I think of it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Cameron?
Ooh, that's a mic drop. Yeah, I mean, I love all of that, and thank you for the question. For me, I was expressing this to Ty. The way that I create films, not only does it come from kind of a personal story, but it's meant to kind of showcase for the first time. We haven't really seen too many on-screen stories of a Black boy's perspective, as a hero and protagonist, but in achieving that, and even a Black family on top of that, right? Normalizing, non-tropial, visuals and stories of Black people in America, right? Trying to navigate and climb upwards and, establish for the first time in their lives, intergenerational wealth and legacy, while against all odds, of course. But yeah, in the way to kind of show that as well, is through my own filmmaking collective, right? So my collaborators, the crew that I'm around, my people, everyone, from my makeup, head and costume designer to, my production designer, I was fortunate enough to be intentional about the people who I center myself around, or they center themselves around me, I should say, are all, Black people and Black women. And, for me, that's important because that is how you, handle these stories with care and intention, and get them into spaces like Rosalyn just so eloquently put. This you can make, kind of the defining, this is what you want to look back and see as kind of like what sets the standard. And just real quick on, the storytelling side from an actor perspective, right? In my film, we follow this nuclear Black family, but it's kind of held in the POV of this 10-year-old Black boy. And, if you think about who is getting opportunities out there right now, in terms of actors coming up, right? You usually still, as you see in the commercials now, you still have that token black boy, so he's for the first time through this short independent film getting a lead role that he can for the first time put on his acting resume. you know, and launch him forwards instead of just being kind of background talent in a commercial as a skin tone, you know. So being able to do that for others is exactly why we do it, and be able to have not only have him lead in this story, but, you know, see himself on screen as his own superhero. So that's it.
So also Cameron comes from an advertising. He has an advertising background. He's in the advertising, you know, on a big level too. And so he has that creative instinct that you see pops up in his filmmaking, you know, and it's very interesting that that's part of his repertoire.
Yeah.
I have a comment too, Charles, really quick. I'm excited about you all have gotten me excited about this film festival, and
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to attend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, generally, for me, the type of films that I have been more interested in is like those ones that can't have enough bullets and bombs and fighting, right? But and I'm getting to a point. I am, but I've grown to a point where I'm much more interested in those films that depict the human experience, right? Just recently, I watched Coda, Child of Deaf Adults, Boys in a Boat, and a couple of others. And I'm a self-proclaimed film critic, but those films, and this plays into your film festival as well, because it's much bigger, in my opinion, than the lights on the screen and the comedy and the communal opportunities that it gives us. But these films allow people to live out things or understand things that they possibly can't put into words, that they don't understand, just trying to get their heads around. And so, in my opinion, that's a major part of whether you're making a short film or, you know, just a traditional one, is allowing people who are existing in this world, especially with all of its issues, to understand, to connect better with the human experience, and by default connect better with one another. And that's again more so just a comment. Ty and guests, feel free to respond to that. But as much as it is important to me to see myself, those who look like me, depicted on screen, I'm also just I can watch any film and get that, because I'm looking to connect about that human experience as well, for my own peace of mind, sanity, quality of life, all of those different things. And I think film, and I guess maybe like stand-up comedy and a few other industries, are like our last forts, so to speak, of where we can have and have the liberty of being able to express ourselves in that way that is for the I guess the common good of our society.
Yeah.
But let me just say this, and I'm gonna pass it to our guests. Well, I'm a guest too, but you know, this is like my home. Real quick though, I'll say this. You know, I recognize where we live at. We live in a town where, you know, it's 70% white, 18% black, and then 5% Hispanic, and then it dwindles down. But when I, with intention, I choose this location, not just because where I live at. I travel all around the world. I could do a film festival anywhere. I do it here because our voices need to be heard, right? I got the Bama Work grant because of the diversity effort and trying to include these untold stories and these undertold stories and underrepresented people and the representation of such. And so we have the Black expressions in cinema block for people who can definitely see, oh, wow, okay, yeah, this is us. But then I also have Black talent throughout the festival in different other films. You know, but I did with intention say, you know what, let me put together a whole entire block, so that if someone did, I would like for people to see other things. But if someone said, you know what, I only want to see my representation, then they have that to go to. You know, they can. My goal is to expand someone's horizon so that they can experience other things, because we have so much to offer in this. But I do have that right there. And I do also, we have the Black Experience in American Cinema panel discussion, which Cameron is going to be on, and also, Craig, Rosalyn's husband.
Okay.
So we have those voices that's going to be talking directly to you, so I'm hoping that our people actually come. Is it a Black film festival? No, it's not a Black quote unquote film festival at all, because 100-something films is not 100-something Black films in it, but there's representation for everyone.
Good stuff.
I think what you said is so poignant, because in a time such as this, we're gonna need entertainment.
For sure.
We're gonna need fantasy and getaway, and that's gonna be our medicine. And so you're gonna need times when you can just have explosions, and that's gonna be important for your sanity. So whatever kind of film or entertainment that takes you to a place where you can get some respite, that is why we make art. We make art for many different reasons. It's to feed the soul. It's to feed the soul in different ways. And sometimes it's just for an escape. And if that, and if sometimes you need to see yourself to have a catharsis, to see yourself in a way to be understood. And sometimes you just need to not think about anything. Just watch an explosion. And both ways are valid. So do what you need. We're here to make, entertainment is valid.
Right.
That's what gets people in their seats, But and I love your comment, about how you mentioned, in the films that you're looking for, in addition to the explosions, the human experience. I think that is so valuable and necessary in our current state of affairs, but also throughout every chapter of human history, you see that this is what people really confided in the arts for. Whether it's a museum or anyways, but just to get to that real quick, I think that was what has been such a humbling experience for me within creating Harlem Fragments, because while it is an autobiographical story, it's meant to really resonate across demographics and types of people out there. And that was my hope when I made it. But then I got out there and I was in, Dubuque, Iowa, and I have, old white families coming up to me saying how much they resonated with this film, shot in Harlem, New York. And so for me, that was the most eye-opening and baffling, but really shows, when people latch onto that human experience, it's everything. And just to that, I was thinking very specifically of when you mentioned the human experience of, if you think about Carrie Mae Weems' kitchen table series, right? It is very much, a Black experience, but in an instant, anybody can look at any of those photos and associate with, struggling, love, family, getting by in those snapshots and glimpses, which is why I give such an homage to her in my film. But yeah, love that.
Gotcha. Thank y'all. Yeah, this, it was great to virtually meet y'all, and looking forward to meeting y'all in person as well.
Oh yeah.
And thank you for your time. And now that now we got a connection, feel free to use our radio airwaves as well, when you have future endeavors that you may want to inform us of. We'd be happy to have you.
Oh, that's such a wonder. We're going to take you up on it.
Yeah. And was loving what you guys were talking about. I was listening in before, you guys were preaching, so needed that.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And we are up against time. So Ty, I wanted to kick it back to you to close us out, man. Let us know the nitty gritty. Can folks still submit? Can they still donate? All that good stuff.
You can always donate. You can always donate. Yes, sir. But no, you can't submit. Films already selected them. And what I've been doing, like I said earlier, is all this morning, all yesterday. I woke up like about 5 a.m, started putting the films in the different blocks, and it's very tricky because they have different times, right? So you need to play around with the time. We have a 2-hour film block. Each film block is 2 hours, and we have animation. We have all these different things. So, it's very tricky. It's definitely a lot of work because you don't want to just put some films on the screen and then in the block, and it's like, all right. So I go through them, and I'm like, this matches kind of with this matches kind of with this. And then when I have a couple blocks that's called the mixed genre blocks, those I have various things because I like, some people like me, I like an eclectic experience. I like to be able to go and see a group of shorts that's not connected, that's not relatable to one another. But then I also, for some people it's disjointing. So we don't all have the same mind, right? So then I put them in a kind of thing box. So I got comedy, we have animation, we have personal connections, we have women in film, we have the Black expressions, of which our film is in that one. If anyone asks. And then we have other blocks as well, but we do have those mixed genre blocks. And to get tickets, so passes are available right now. So you can go online, get a pass. You can get the all access pass or the movie buff pass. And the all access pass get you access to everything in the festival except for the workshop that Rosalyn is teaching. That's a separate. You got to pay for that separately, even if you have a pass. If you say, but I don't want to go to the Sunday Brunch Awards. The Sunday Brunch Awards is catered by Harvest Moon Catering, and it's at the Bradbury. It's amazing. It's great food. I mean, it's just beautiful last year, and we're doing that again this year at the Bradbury. And then, but the launch party is at the Common House.
Okay.
You get a drink ticket, and I think I'm gonna have some light food there as well. So, but those are included in the all access pass. If you say, well, I don't want to eat and I don't want to party. Well, who doesn't want to party at a festival? I don't know, but still, to each his own. You can get the movie buff pass, and I get you access to all the screenings. Both passes get you preferred seating in the panel discussions and the table reads.
Okay. So
the passes are great, and also what the pass allows you to do. The pass are on sale now, so if you buy a pass now at indieshortfilmfestival.net, you can go ahead tomorrow. You'll be able to go in and reserve your individual tickets for the film before it goes on sale to the general public.
Okay.
So it goes on sale to the general public on Wednesday. So you have 3 days, so you could choose your, the films that you want to see under your pass. It goes into your account. It pulls out the system, and then whatever is left, the general public can, go ahead and try to buy.
Gotcha.
Sometimes last year it sold out. A couple of screening blocks sold out because, sponsors and pass holders, they had access first.
Okay.
So that's how that works. But then Wednesday, like I said, it goes on sale to the general public. Now you can buy your launch party, Sunday brunch. You can go to Rosalyn's workshop. You can get those things now directly. You could just buy those. Those on sale. But as far as screenings, those don't go on sale until Wednesday unless you are a pass holder, and it goes on sale tomorrow for you. Okay.
Gotcha.
And so that's it. And I know that's a lot. It's a whole lot, but it's different ways of making it where people who bought passes and sponsors, they are it grants them the ability to get some tickets for sure because they supported the festival in a different way.
Okay.
In a different way.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So but yeah, come out March 21st through the 23rd. We have 5 venues, all downtown, the downtown mall. So we have Vinegar Hill Theater, Vita Crown, Common House, Vault, Virginia, and Bradbury. All 5 venues will be used.
Look at you.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I don't, you know me. Nah. People
ain't no half step.
Nah,
Full of humility, Ty.
It's a Harlem.
Full of it.
It's a Harlem
oozing
thing.
out.
It's a Harlem thing. You got to blame Cameron. It's a Harlem thing.
Yes,
not
indeed.
my fault. Yeah, not my fault. So anyway, but thank you guys, Rosalyn and Cam. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I hit up Cam last night. I was like, yo, Cam, I forgot to hit him up early in the daytime, and I told Charles I would, and I was like, dang, I didn't hit up Cam, and then he immediately responded and was like, yeah, I got you. That's what I'm talking about. That's yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Ty. As always, we're looking forward to it. Right,
yeah,
Max?
man. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Support, and don't make us. You're not making me look bad in front of Roz. Don't make us look bad. We are a team here in Charlottesville. Come out and go to her workshop. Even if you're not a professional actor, just go to the workshop because it's good. go to the website and it's
Get your ticket.
Yeah. Register for her workshop. It's dope. It's 4 hours long, 3.5 hours training. You get half an hour for refreshments and stuff in the beginning. But I'm telling you, this is some good stuff here. Yeah, some good stuff. So support if you can.
Right on.
Miss Max,
Thank you.
Want to close? Take us to break.
It. Razor was quiet. He didn't say anything.
Well, don't get him started now because we're over time.
I just thank you to our guest joining us. Best of luck on the film festival. I look forward to participating in it. And I just tell listening audience, stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Amazing. Well, I don't know if they can hear us anymore, but Rosalyn, it was great meeting you. I'm excited to see you guys on the ground.
I can't wait to see your film.
Oh man, it's a good one.
Sounds so good.
It's a fun one, so I'm excited to show you guys.
All right. Thanks, Ty. That was great.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Look forward to seeing you down here.
All right. See you soon.
All right.
All right. Thank y'all. Talk to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
There's a delay, right? How many seconds is that delay? Half at most.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. IMHO Talk Show.
We're back.
You know who it is. Sir Charles.
Max.
Razor.
That's right. And, as we stated, as we always edutain, but we kicked off this show in particular, and we may even alluded to it last show, Miss Max, about just being prepared and ready, right? And that comes down to survival. That comes down to, us being able to be independent, being able to take care of ourselves and each other. And, whether you're looking at the pillars of such as like Black Panthers or whatever movement it may be that was about group economics, power economics, about self-sustainability, there's three common needs, right? Your food, clothing, and shelter. All right. And so the guest that we've had and we want to continue to have is to drive that point home. And so delighted right now to have none other than Mr. Michael Carter with us. Brother, it's very, very inspirational story. I have had the pleasure of meeting him, crossing paths with him. Brother Carter, how you feeling this afternoon, man?
Feeling outstanding. How about yourself?
Good,
Welcome
man.
to the show.
Complain.
He introduced you like you couldn't folk.
Yeah.
Maybe you are. I don't know.
Technically, Hey, look, if you search down the line far enough, we're gonna cross paths.
We got some Lewis's in
there. Yeah. Yes, indeed, man. So Carter Family Farms, like kind of for the folks who never heard of it, give us sort of that origin story. Let the folks know about the family and sort of the history of Carter Farms.
All right. Well, thank you much for having me today.
Thank you.
I guess the family farm goes back to a little before the family farm. And then roughly 1859, 1860. My sixth great grandfather, his name was Robert Ellis, started one of the first free Black communities in Orange County called Freetown, which is where the chef Anna Lewis ultimately came from and came out of.
That's right.
And I think Robert Ellis's vision spread or was planted in all the other members of the family. And like many Black families, I'm like related to my families on both sides.
Right.
In many cases,
Yep.
Double cousins and double entendres and all that in the family. And my family, that particular side of my family, my great-great-grandparents, Jefferson Davis Shirley and Catherine Walker Shirley, purchased their property November 5th, 1910, for $722.05. And that's the farm that we stay on to this day.
How much property was that?
That's 150 acres.
Okay.
And I think he had about 10 children. But in those times, the average wage was about $12 a month. So we'd be able to save up $700 off of $12 a month. Yeah, it was major. And he just didn't buy property there. I found deeds from other family members in which he had property on 522 and some other places that he sold to other family members. Because during that time period, it was pretty much illegal to sell Black folks property. White folks had to give it to you. And if white folks didn't give it to you, then if there was some Black owners, they could then provide it for you. So they saw the value of family or of land. Soon after that, in 1919, my great-grandfather purchased another plot of land about 5 miles from my farm, another 25 acres for about $255. And that's been in our family. Both of those properties have been in our family ever since. So they're both century farm or century plots. And my great-grandmother, in her infinite wisdom, rescued the farm after the Great Depression. My cousins, uncles, aunts, whoever, they did something and let the property almost be let go, foreclosed upon. And my great-grandmother, from what stories I've heard from my various uncles and that, so they said she wanted to make sure her sons had a place to come home to after the war.
Yeah.
And she made it her mission. So while my grandfather and his brothers were in World War II, they would send back their pay of $29 a month every month to my grandmother to help pay off the debt they incurred from this wedding or something that was financed by the land, and then wasn't after that. So roughly 1947, my grandmother comes in and has all the money to be able to take care of the property, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Right.
We've been on that land ever since, and working to expand. And we're looking to acquire the land next to us, which is about another 120 acres that a gentleman named Dr. Charles West owned. Dr. Charles West was the first Black quarterback to play in the Rose Bowl.
Y'all own all of Orange County, don't you?
And if I did, y'all be on my radio station. No, we're just trying to get our little piece of the pie, you know. And I think for many Black families, we've had histories of owning land, but because we didn't always value the land, we sold it, we gave it away. And now I'm just trying to re-inspire us to go back and buy the land. You know, forget buying the bar. Let's buy the block. Let's buy the land. Let's buy the farms.
There you go.
Let's buy our farms. And to me, that's how generational wealth starts. First through generational health. You know, when you're working off the land, you're generally a lot healthier. And then your vision is clear. Be able to make wiser decisions and be able to grow your legacy without having to deal with the crux of really debilitating financial or health bills related to shocks. And, you know, this person died here, we weren't able to do this. And instead of doing a GoFundMe, you can actually pull equity out of the land to take care of your realities.
Yeah. Hey, so let's take it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Michael Carter Jr. Correct? Jr.
I'm a junior.
Yep, Michael Carter Jr. of Carter Family Farms. And let's start right there. Like, what encouraged that decision-making process? Like, was that something that was just instilled in you as far as family value, or was this like something that you kind of grew to learn? Like when it came to that decision-making of, it is important for us to be able to maintain a farm or multiple farms, all this acreage. And also, not that, man, I can sell this, make some good money, go buy me a house in the city and be done. Like, so take us through that, like the importance of that decision making for you.
I would like to say that, I was wise and intelligent, but I was young and dumb and ready to get to the city. So I ran away from the farm, I don't know, probably numerous times. And I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Caroline County, which is about 2 counties over from Orange. But as soon as I got the opportunity, I went to DC. I worked in DC. I was going to make my life in DC. And probably for the first 12, 13 years of my life after college and even before college, and working as an intern in DC, I was DC. I was a go-go head. I was go-go Mike. I wasn't Farmer Mike. And I was, it wasn't until I went overseas, I lived overseas in Ghana for about 5 years, from 2012 to 2017. And in that period, I saw how land was so important to them. And I could remember the stories my father would tell me about land ownership, and just kind of reiterating in me driving to school, this is what happens when Black folks get land. They sell it. Don't sell yours. And he kind of drilled that in me over and over again, either innately kind of, like, why are you telling me this? I'm not going to ever be in that situation. And then when I was in Ghana, and we have numerous plots of land from different parts of the family in Orange. And when I was in Ghana, there was an episode, I think in 2013, where a portion of our land, which I had a great connection to, was sold. And it was sold pretty much nobody in the family really knew except for the elders who decided to sell it. Like, hi, you gonna sell Grandma Lizzie's house? And Grandma Lizzie's house was like the cornerstone of the family, where this is where everybody came and got introduced to the family. You bring in a little girlfriend, boyfriend down there, you bring it to Grandma Lizzie's house to be examined, and we can talk about him or her, and
decide whether or not we like him or her.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. And if you got pregnant and without the father, there'd be that metal rocking chair on the porch you sit there and talk to the elders with, and they kind of coax you through that and help you through it. So it was always, that's how I got introduced to my family. Sitting on the porch, my mother holding me, and she having to go through the interview process with my great grandmother and them to make sure she passed the smell test. So when they sold that house, I was a bit bothered, a little bit in Ghana, and I was going through some things in Ghana with my own land ownership there, and seeing some of the realities of owning land there. I had a 50-year lease, and I was building a home there, and one of the masons was telling one of my other masons that in 40 years this will be ours. I'm like, it just didn't add up well to me. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to build something here, and then you just kind of plot on me and wait out, and then as soon as it's time to renew the lease, you say, nah, I'm not interested. I'll take your house and all of that. And I wanted to have that legacy. So when I returned back here in 2017, as I say, the land kind of spoke to me. It was like, you got to tell this story. I misinterpreted it. I thought it was going to tell the story of my experiences in West Africa, and that's kind of what I was thinking. But ideally, it became the story of my ancestors and them holding that land. And I discovered more history around that land that helped me to better understand the importance of it, the value of it. So it was definitely a slow, methodical breakthrough of the importance of it, and kind of seeing the state of African Americans, the state of African American farmers, and our realities in Virginia. Like, you know, we're an endangered species.
Yeah.
And the way you created the endangered species, you destroy the environment of that species in most cases. And there's not many black farmlands, so it's not that many black farmers. And we've slowly destroyed them. And you can blame a lot of things, but I blame the community. Because you can blame the government for not providing programs and stuff like that, but the community was what sustained us.
I've seen some signs that said black farmers for Trump.
And it may be, you know, so I'm not going to deny it. There's a whole bunch of signs for farmers for Trump. And, you know, in the first administration, he dished out about 28 to 40 billion dollars of funds to farmers. So if I'd have got some of that, if I'd have got more of that money, I'd probably had a sign in my yard too. You know, I didn't get as much, so I couldn't afford a sign.
Gotcha. We are joined by Michael Carter, Carter Farms, talking about the importance of agriculture. Really, we're talking about family, lineage, and you know, the value thereof. That being said, Michael, so I noticed that you have a term that I don't think that I was cognizant of until Carter Farms, which is Africulture. What is the difference between Africulture and agriculture?
Well, Africulture is a term that we coined, ultimately a business that I started, a nonprofit that we have, which talks about the principles, practices, plants, and people of African descent that contributed to agriculture. And that came out of the perception that, you know, Black people have of themselves in agriculture. When you think about agriculture, you think immediately about slavery, or agriculture and Black people, you think immediately about slavery. You know, I can remember my grandmother telling me, get my cotton picking hands off of that, whatever. But that cotton picking wasn't something that was a term of endearment. That was really a term of, you know, you picking cotton, and the little nasty, scrawny hands of yours, ashy hands need to get off whatever they're on. And subconsciously, we have a lot of that where we, you know, I've seen memes on Facebook talking about, you know, somebody eating cotton candy with a fork. Like, I ain't picking nobody's cotton, not even cotton candy. And that's the perception that we have related to agriculture a lot of times, not that agriculture was a form of liberation. So we go through pretty much the impact that the principles, the practices, the plants, the people, and now the policies have related to our liberation or our failure within the American society and society at whole. So when we talk about like cotton was an African plant. You know, we don't really talk about that, or rice or okra or the cola nut that ultimately created Coca-Cola. You know, or the cotton with the indigo that creates the denim jeans that now everybody wears. These are the fabric of our lives, but the fabric of those things came out of Africa. And many of us have no idea that that's part of our lineage, that it wasn't just the enslaved that did it, but also the crops of our homeland.
A quick question for you. So when it comes to things like Hound the Hog, right? The documentary series on Netflix. When I looked at it, it was for information purposes, but it sounds like when you look at things like that, you find the connectivity of our people to re-educate us to get back to where we once came from. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. I'm probably in the mold of fashion of Dr. Jessica Harris, who wrote Hound the Hog. Well, I look for the connections. I truly don't watch those documentaries. I don't want to be tainted by other people's connections. But at the same time, I think I have seen that, and I have spoken to Dr. Harris a few times. There's a connection there to me for our soul. Our literal health is connected to the land. As African people, we are naturally connected to the soil.
That's right.
We can't help it, you know, and even when you try to get away from it, I was in Washington, D.C. in Southeast Minnesota Avenue, and I found myself in the back of my house planting herbs, walking outside barefoot, planting pansies. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm not that guy, but I am that guy because I can't help but, you know, be connected, you know, and our history has always been that related in that way, that our strength and our cultural strength and our civilization strength is always related to agriculture. If you go back to Kemet or Egypt, you know, we learned about the Nile Valley civilization, and it's built upon agriculture. The reason why enslaved Africans were taken from the place where it was taken because of their agricultural prowess. They were skilled master farmers. And to me, that's going to always be our strength, no matter what we run away from. You know, when we were here and newly free, you know, the great Dr. Booker T. Washington, he said, this is your strength. Build nations or communities around agriculture. And that's what we did. And that's where you had the Black Wall Streets. Black Wall Streets didn't just come out of, insurance. It came out of being able to feed yourselves first. And then after you were getting all those things in place, insurance and other companies came up that you can now insure and better build more financial liquidity in your family. But there's this idea that this isn't who we are. I don't want to be no farmer. In DC, you say you call individuals Bamas. Bamas being somebody from Alabama or from South who dress fun and usually dress like the seasons, where they dress because they dress loudly, had a lot of colors because the environment was reflective of flowers and trees, and they dressed accordingly. In DC, you dress dreary because all you see around you is black, gray, white, blue, navy blue,
That's
not
deep.
even royal blue. And it was those connections that kind of I see and try to make. Being a go-go scholar of sorts. There was a song, I think most of us remember, Sardines and Pork and Beans.
Absolutely.
Right? And that was a great song, but it was a cultural song around food and around food policy, around Reagan. And then there's another song called The Word. The Word, if you ever listen to it, he's talking about the Farm Bill of 1985 and how, because of shifts in that Farm Bill, it affected Farmer Brown being able to sell his crop, springtime mud. I can't remember how it goes exactly. We talking about Farmer Brown got to sell his mud because it's been the floods. And these are individuals who were connected through the pots and the pans, but also through the culture of agriculture unknowingly. This is people from Southeast Berry Farms who lived in a place called Berry Farms, which was named after a farm in Southeast DC prior to. So all these connections, I definitely try to make. And I think, Dr. Harris and others like myself, Dr. Lenny Sorensen, there's a lot of us to kind of make these connections because we get blindsided by life and we forget that this is how we sustain ourselves. This is our strength and has historically always been our strength. And when we lean into it, we're stronger. When we lean away from it, we're much weaker.
Loving that. Talking to Michael Carter Farms. In the building with IMHO Talk Show. Man, this is real good stuff. Michael, share the importance of this, like, to people in general, like when it comes to just owning like our health through what we consume and whatnot, right? Because there's and I'm curious if you have any opinions on things like urban farm. I heard you mention when you were in DC, but even now today, when people say, "Oh man, but I live in an apartment building, whatever the case may be, or I don't have a lot of land," and people think about different types of urban farming and things like that. But but whether it's like a micro scale of farming or whether it's going to farmers markets, things like that. Just talk to us about the importance of Black people today. And again, who may not live in a rural area, but like things they can do, and the importance of like fresh foods and us taking ownership of that.
It's a great importance. And I can't stress it. I've been a vegan for about 20 years, 25, 21 years. And, I've gotten into the mode of convenience. And convenience is the biggest killer of us. Because when you're eating processed foods, you're not eating it because it tastes good. It's eating because it's convenient. And you've eaten it so much, it becomes palatable and good tasting, but it's not good for you. And we sacrifice what's good for us for what's most convenient for us. And there's a need, and I appreciate the urban farming movement because you have to start somewhere. Some people say, well, these aren't farms. Well, it doesn't matter. If it's a farm, it's a garden. It's giving people opportunity to get back to the soil and the land. And to restore connections that may have been lost. Usually you get elders out there who explain what they did back in Mississippi or Georgia or South Carolina, teaching other folks, or people from Latin descent, people from African descent, who were born in Africa or the Caribbean, talking about what they did in their home places related to food. Food is a weapon. And it's one of those weapons that it can be used against you or for you. And too many times we've allowed it to be used against us.
One other thing, this is great stuff. First off, and I'm proud because I'm from Orange County, and that's where your farm is from. With the conversation we had earlier. Now, what I want to get to is what I'm kind of hearing you sort of lead towards is coming off the grid as well. When it comes, I want to ask you about that, about coming off the grid. So if you're trying to give people the opportunity to get back to vegetables and things that don't have labels. That's real food. I tell everybody all the time, if it has a label, it's not food. So when it comes to being self-sufficient with the land, with your food, with independence, with cattle, whatever, how do you do that? Be educated such as yourself, go to college, and still maintain your autonomy for who you are as a Black person when it comes to the land.
So with that particular thing, especially self-sufficiency and trying to be off grid, I say go very slowly. That's a major step. And what you don't want to do is run before you can crawl. So if you don't have a good understanding of how to eat and how to eat fresh foods, there's no need to try to get off grid. You're going to fall flat on your face. I walked down that path. I tried to do some off grid stuff in West Africa. Needless to say, I'm back here. You know what I'm saying? It ain't go too hot. It takes a lot to go off grid, and you have to prepare yourself, and you have to prepare your mind with some of the realities and not having conveniences, because that again goes back to conveniences. The electricity, the toilet flushing, refrigeration, all those things are conveniences we take for granted. Let your toilet not flush. You calling somebody,
right?
You're dealing with that immediately. That's an issue that we got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where, if you go too hard, too fast, you're not going to be as successful. I'd always say, start with your food, preparing 2 to 3, 4, 5 meals per week at home. Getting in the habit of preparing meals at home as opposed to getting Uber Eats and takeout and restaurants and all that kind of stuff. Get used to growing. And if you're in an apartment, if you're in suburbs, you can still grow something in your home. You can grow microgreens or have a little container garden with like the salad containers that we get, put some soil in there, put some lettuce seeds in there. Start small. Starting small helps you to see the process and helps you to have smaller failures, because you're going to have failures in agriculture. And if you start big and you fail big, you're probably not going to do it again. So if you start small and you have some successes, it's going to build up that dopamine responses in your body to say, okay, this is working. So when you have the failures, it's not going to look as bad. It's not going to feel as bad as. So I always encourage, start small. And that's any farmer, any gardener, anybody I talk to or work with, start small. And then from there, open your mind up to some of the other things, and then see some examples around about off grid. Get some ideas. Don't just watch YouTube and be inspired and motivated. And next thing you know, this guy on YouTube is just selling you wolf tickets. It looks really good from that 30-second video, but you ain't seen the 3 years of struggle he's had to get to that point. And that's what really it takes. And we kind of get sold on things on the internet where we think that it's true because it's edited well. And it's that those parts that ended up on the edit floor is what really makes us who we need to be in terms of persevering through that. Very few times do you see the failures come out. It's usually the successes. It looks really good, clean. You don't see the challenges. And we know how we struggle just with electricity during a snowstorm. Folks have run into the grocery store. They're buying up all the freaking milk and eggs and toilet paper. And then, when we are without electricity for 2 or 3 days, we're not in a good space. You're cold. You're kind of struggling. Your phones may or may not be working. You may have to go to a hotel or stay with some other family members. And those are real realities. If you can't go through a day without electricity, don't be trying to do a lifestyle without it. Those are things that, you got to definitely crawl and prepare your mind. And if you don't have that mental toughness to deal with that and the challenges that come, especially when you start dealing with children, you can take it, but can your child go to school without a shower, for 2 days because we ain't had no running water? How do you feel about that? Them complaining. I
have 2 questions for you. The first being, of course, we all hear this information is put out. One day something is good for you. One day eggs is healthy for you, and the next day eggs are not healthy for you. And it's true that we've all heard the same when it talks about our fruits and vegetables and the pesticides that are put on them. So I want to give you an opportunity to, give us a more realistic picture of what's happening there. The other thing is another common debate of whether or not we're in climate change. Some say we're in a climate crisis. Some say we're not. But I'm interested to know how you as a farmer feel like the climate will or has or will impact your farm?
Great question. That kind of helps to also shape some of the things we do with agriculture.
Okay.
One of the things we do with the farm is, I'm going to touch your last part of the question first and go back to the pesticides and things. But we grow African crops with the idea that, based upon what I've experienced, is getting warmer and the amount of rain and precipitation cycles are changing during the summertime when it's hotter. So it's getting, and plants aren't doing as well. So if you think about a plant like a spinach or even a lettuce, they're cool season plants, which means they're designed or were originated in Europe and the Mediterranean, where it was a lot cooler for a lot longer. And they adapted accordingly. So when you put them in heat, they do what's called bolting, which means they become bitter and they send up seeds saying that I'm done. It's too hot for me. I'm going to die here soon. So I'm going to send up seeds to send out for the next generation. When things bolt, you're usually not edible. So spinach and all that kind of stuff. So to get spinach now in the springtime, they have to be in very controlled environments. They had to be in a greenhouse or something like that, which takes it out of its natural cycle and also takes away the nutrients because they're being fed pretty much intravenously. They're being fed through hydroponics. So there's nutrients going through the roots, but they're not getting all the nutrients that you generally get from the soil. And there's a difference between nutrients you get from the soil versus nutrients that you get hydroponically. It's just like being in a hospital on an IV. It can keep you alive, but you're not really getting what you need to get from your foods. And the same thing happens with hydroponics. And I understand the business side of it. I'm not a big proponent of it, but I don't shun anybody for doing it. And so we grow African crops, and these African crops are ideally designed to be grown in the heat. They grow in Africa. They generally grow without a lot of water. So without a lot of water, their roots go down deeper and they're able to pull up a lot more nutrients. So when we grow our crops, we do a lot of research around these African crops because everybody in this room is of African descent, African people. And what summer vegetables do you eat that are African?
Okra.
You eat okra?
Well, I don't eat it.
Okay,
Help us out. You tell us.
No, you don't. The only African crops you generally eat in the summertime is watermelons. Okay, and that's if you eating watermelons now because before it was a thing.
I'm a big
And
fan.
this was part of the issue with food as a weapon. They weaponized watermelon against us in the 1920s. A marketing campaign because we were making a lot of money on communities selling watermelons.
That's neat.
And they said, we'll mock you. So it became a point that your best customers now stop being your best customers because of the marketing campaign against watermelon. And we also saw a different reality of a marketing campaign with Popeye. What did Popeye eat? Spinach. And the marketing went up tremendously with spinach because they made it appear like it made you strong and healthy. So we all wanted spinach as children because Popeye had spinach. And then a lot of us didn't want watermelon as children, which was healthier for us because of the images related to being coons and all that kind of stuff. So these are all the things that we work with on the farm to try to combat and discuss. So we're working on a concept called eating for your ethnic type and growing for your ethnic type. Whereas we want you to eat more sweet potato leaves or Nigerian spinach or amaranth or
Sweet potato leaves?
Leaves.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah, so all sweet potatoes have leaves. So if once they're growing, if you put a sweet potato underneath your sink for about in a brown bag for about 3 months, you'll start to see it sprout.
Okay.
And those leaves are edible.
Okay.
Right, and they're African-based. Sweet potatoes are African-based crop that could ultimately deal with things related to urban agriculture because they grow a lot of leaves in the summertime. And they're perfectly edible. Usually farmers used to give them away. In other cultures, Asian cultures, African cultures, they eat the leaves. We just don't because we eat collards and kale and turnip and all that kind of stuff. 'Cause that's what we were told that we should be eating.
Right.
So that's how what we do on the farm in terms of dealing with climate change, trying to grow crops that be resistant to it. I believe there's a change or a shift. I'm not, and I have my theories about why. I don't think it's always. It's a lot of stuff that we're doing as a culture and as a country. That makes climate change a reality. Going to like pesticides and those type of things. First of all, a lot of people get caught up on GMOs, and I'm not going to eat this seedless grape because it's GMO. Like that's not a GMO crop. There are 5 GMO crops, which you eat all the time or have on your body all the time. You just don't realize it. The 5 GMO crops are corn, cotton, canola or Canada oil or rapeseed, sugar beets, and what's the last one? Jeez. I'll come back to the last one.
Okay.
It's all good.
But when you fill up your gas tank, you put in GMO fuel in your car because that's ethanol in it.
Ethanol, yeah.
Right. When you put on hand sanitizer, the hand sanitizer is coming from alcohol that came from GMO corn that now you put in your hands. Soybean oil or soybeans is the other one. Soybeans, you see soybean whatever in a whole bunch of different processed foods. So a lot of these foods, the GMO stuff is in all your processed stuff. All your flaming hot whatever's, your anything that comes in a box is most likely going to have some level of GMO things in it. And then there's fruits and vegetables, which you need to consume more of no matter what's happening. Grapes, oranges, apples. Eating more fruits is definitely going to make us healthier. I try to buy organic. And, there's certain crops that are always going to be organic, whether they're listed or not, that they can't grow, they can't be sprayed. Bananas are one of those. Avocados are usually one of those because they're trees, you can't spray them. So, you can do other things to them to protect them from insects, but usually they're pretty solid. Organic or not organic. Onions and things like that, you generally want to buy organic because the onion and the onion bulbs suck up whatever's around them. So when you spray with onions, whatever's in the soil, whatever they spray is going to get sucked up by the onion. And any other tubers like potatoes and things, strawberries, etc. I try to do organic as well. And there's a whole list of vegetables, but I try to encourage individuals first to be conscious about what you're eating. Forget about the and just focus on what you're eating. Is it a fresh vegetable? Is it real food? Or is it something that came out of a box? Is it something that was processed? If you can get past that and start eating real food, then we can start to have a conversation and you start to see the value of it because your mind is made up of your neurons that food or food-like substances are controlling and creating more neurons. And if you're eating the stuff that's not food, you're going to have a whole lot of not food cells in your body and your thinking. And you're not going to be able to differentiate between what's food and what's not food. At a certain point, you're just going to want to satiate this desire of hunger, which is usually a lack of nutrition. So when you start to get better nutrition, you start to get less hungry.
Michael, let me interject with a question right there. And this may be something that you can touch on, and maybe you can say if you can't. But I've heard that about cancer. I've heard that the foundation of cancer is kind of like what you're saying. We're putting foreign substances in our body that's then replicating things that's foreign to our body. Is that have you ever heard that frame of thought? Is that truth in that? Or
I'm no doctor. I just play one on the radio.
Right.
I'm not a doctor, but yes, I've definitely heard that. And there's, cancer cells don't exist in certain cultures, or cancers doesn't exist in certain cultures because you get cancer cells per se, but they don't take over because what you're feeding your body is usually fighting off the cancer cells and keeping it very low. So when you're feeding things like processed foods, you can actually grow a said cancer. And there's numerous, there's a lot of people talking about a lot of stuff related to that. And I agree with a lot of it, but I look at the more practical ways of things. And this is in my humble opinion as a show. There's, when we were growing up, I think I recall my grandmother, maybe you call your grandmother, your mothers, your aunties talking about a place where the sun doesn't shine. Now, and when I was living in Africa, there were not a lot of places that the sun didn't shine on the body. And in that, there was a lot of individuals who didn't have ailments. Breast cancer didn't exist in a lot of the villages that I went into because there would be women who found a place to be able to go topless in the areas. A lot of the areas in which we have our biggest cancers for African Americans, men and women, are usually in places that the sun don't shine. Prostate, colon, breast, ovarian, the sun needs to hit those places for the hormones that vitamin D invokes to be able to be activated. Think about how many times we're in a place during the summertime, an air-conditioned place. We're cute, so we got something on our arms. We may showing off our legs.
Why you look at me when you say that? Why
I'm a man, so I couldn't necessarily look at him like that and give
look, like not without me speaking on it, you could.
He's from Orange too. I there's no way. So forgive me. You were just the cutest one in the world at the time. My bad.
That's all right.
That's how I was raised. But in those things, we have to look at again how we're getting that vitamin D on a regular basis, to make sure that we stay as healthy as possible. Because you can't have both scenarios where you're eating processed foods and you're not getting the vitamin D. Like that's a double negative in terms of you want to get something eventually. And we got to be a lot more open about where we are and be okay with being outside. Sweating is like healthy in most cases. Like you're getting out all the, folks be out there. I don't like the bugs. I'm sweating and I gotta go back inside. Okay, you're setting yourself up for sicknesses later on. We got to get back into being back with nature and recognizing that sweating is part of life. You sweat a little extra deodorant, you're good to go.
I got a good question for you. All right. Now, taking what Charles and Max just now said, one of the things that, also what this conversation has been about is that the mindset, I think Max said it in the first part of the show, the mindset is something that we combat, right? So I'm going to just be 100% transparent. When you ask, what does Popeye eat? And Max says spinach. I was getting ready to say chicken. You know what I'm saying? Popeye's chicken. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. So she saved me, and I thank you for it, Max. But nevertheless, the mindset of when I go to buy my children's lunch in the morning, the sales are on the processed foods with the crackers and the stuff, right? The anything that is pretty much what the kids are putting inside of their lunch boxes, GMO this and red dyes this and all of it is causing cancer known. Like, so California is ahead of us at banning stuff. But even banning stuff, if our mindset is set to what we know, that's what we're going to do. Charles says it all the time, right?
Absolutely.
In your humble opinion, right? How does a person redefine their thought process so that they're eating to live and not eating inconvenience as to what you spoke of?
This is something, and I teach a course called Agriculture at UVA. Well, I teach my course.
I was about to mention that.
And the idea is to kind of, not necessarily to retrain them, but to get them some different ways of thinking. When I speak to audiences around this subject, this is one of the things I really harp on, is what I call the value tax. We got to put a greater value in our lives and our health, that we're quick to do things for the sake, and you see it on, again, social media memes. Would you do this for 10 million? Would you smack your mother for $1 million? Hey, there's a certain level of value that we have with our mothers that no matter what the money, it shouldn't even be a thought. Funny or not, it shouldn't be a thought. And we don't put a lot of value right now on our lives and our health. And that's a lot of times, to me, related to a lot of the music. We grew up in the era of NWA and UTFO and Slick Rick, treated like a, and you start to devalue who you are as a person subconsciously. N-word this, N-word that. N-words have no value, in this culture society. You heard Marvin Gaye talk about brother, brother, sister, sister, and we saw each other from a different perspective. We had healthier interactions. Do we have issues here? But not the same that we have now, where it's been glorified to the point of us not seeing the value of ourselves first and foremost. That you're quick to put a switch on something to take out our which comes back to how we value each other. Whereas it was a time where that was not even a question. We had a disagreement. We sat down with the elders and we discussed it out, because I didn't want to have a disagreement with my brother or my sister. I didn't want to create that tension amongst us long term. So we're not putting a value, and to me, it starts with entertainment and music, really music, that because we're such a frequency home people, that they utilize music as a weapon against us. And if you start changing the music back to something more positive, much more, you're going to see a change and a shift. And then once you start seeing a change and a shift, you start to, again, put more emphasis on what you're putting in your machine. If you see yourself as a Rolls Royce, you're not putting kerosene in a Rolls Royce.
There you go.
You're not even putting 87 in a Rolls Royce. You got a Rolls Royce, you're looking for 96, 90, don't even have it at the regular. You're going to get, pseudo jet fuel to put in it, because you realize the value of this particular. And it's the same thing we have to do with our bodies.
That's right.
Right now, we've been putting diesel and water in our engine. Not water, because water's good. But Mountain Dew and Red 40 and all that, even 40 ounces. It was a whole time. It was like, what is in a 40 ounce? Why do you, and then how do you sell it for 89 cents? In a glass bottle. It's like the bottle itself. But there's a value that we lost in that process in the 80s and 90s related to what we ate. And there has to be another push related to how we see it. And there has to be something we take into ourselves before we get into dialysis. I made a commitment to myself. I'm not going to follow in the same footsteps as my family. And a lot of times what we eat is much more hereditary than the effects of what we're eating. So it's because you had the same diet as Big Mama and them, and you eating the same things or worse, you're going to have the same ailments. Versus understanding if you stop that and eat healthier, you're going to see a different result. I made a pledge to myself 20 some years ago to say, I'm not going to do that again. My grandfather had issues. My father had cancer. His uncles had cancer. All these individuals, and they kept saying it's running in the family. I'm like, what's running in the family is the daggone
social disease.
The whole
pig feed.
Yeah, the pig feed, the ham, the scrapple, the bacon, and the 4 meats for breakfast. Bacon, sausage, turkey. I mean, it's like, good gosh. And then you got to chase that down with eggs and Sunny Delight.
Yeah.
You're not even.
Yeah.
So there's this reality that for us to get to a point of doing better, we got to do better and want to do better for ourselves and our health.
Yeah.
That to me, that's the biggest thing, especially for us in our middle age ages of sorts, between 35 to 55. We've got to really make a stance and say, I want to be healthier. And then also got to make a stance for our children to say, I want them to be healthy, not convenient. Because they're going to get conveniently sick if we keep feeding them the same stuff.
Yeah, got to.
And that's, a lot of times we talk about like when I became a vegan, everybody would tell me, your grandmother lived to be 90 something, 95. And I understood, as I thought about it more, what she ate at 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 was straight off the land that we were living on. It was not a processed thing in sight. And that gave them the foundation to be able to eat more processed stuff in later ages, but then, and succumb at a later age. They had a really strong nutritional foundation where they were eating all the herbs, the poke salad and the dandelion, and making the dandelion wines and all this kind of stuff. And those things were what kept them young and vibrant, and they could eat meat once a week, usually Sunday dinners or something like that. But most of the time it was beans and rice and some other things, a lot of greens that kept them young and vibrant. Now we're eating, either we're overindulging in meat on a regular basis, a lot of red meats, so your children now having shrimp for dinner on a Tuesday night. It's like that was unheard of for me growing up. Even having hamburgers or something, it didn't happen 2 nights in a row. It was a lot of balance in those things. And now it's like we're constantly just feeding them whatever's convenient, whatever you can pick up from whatever store, and it's having an impact where you're seeing child cancer rates going up. You're seeing children with type 1 and type 2 diabetes as children. That wasn't the case when I was growing up. And then coupled with the inactivity, they're always on the tablets, the machines, the phones, and not going outside. I mean, it was in my neighborhood, it was against the law not to be outside. It was like, they had to, you remember those times where you had to actually, it's 9 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, you know where your children are? Those commercials remind parents to go and get your daggone children out the street. Because he's out there having fun and working off a lot of the huggies and the hugs and the hot dogs we may have eaten. But we worked it all off and sweated it all out. We've got to get back to a point of eating healthier whole foods. And I even though I'm a vegan, I'm not necessarily opposed to you eating healthier farm raised meats, as opposed to corporate raised meats that aren't going to be as healthy for you. So there's a redefinition of value that we have to have for ourselves as people. That if you value yourself, if it's family over everything, your health should be over all of that.
Yeah. And Michael, thank you. We are pressed up against time, but but now people would add cost to that though. People would say, I can't afford to eat healthy. Like, what do you say about that?
We afford what we can.
Right.
Okay. When I talk to individuals, I ask, how much does your cell phone cost? How much does a new iPhone cost? They don't even give you a price. They just say pay $300 a month for the next 1,300 months, and we're okay with it. So we can afford what we want to afford. If there's some new J's coming out, for some odd reason, you'll be able to find the money to be able to take care of that for your child or for yourself. But when it comes to making sure we invest in ourselves in terms of our health, then we want to penny pinch. If you're in debt, what are you in debt for? Are you in debt for because you try to have a healthy meal, or because you try to floss and make sure that you had what the Joneses had? So these are, I don't use money as an excuse. There's always, there are exceptions, I'm sure, but it's usually priorities. What are you prioritizing? If you're not prioritizing your health, you're probably prioritizing how you look and ultimately consumerism. And it's that consumerism and that convenience that we need to really push back and then really focus on our health. So if again, and I have no problem working with folks if they want to come to the farm or buy some things from healthy. No problem. And we can do it at a reduced cost. But as a farmer as well, this is my business. So I'm not trying to reduce the cost of my business. Y'all are not trying to reduce the cost of your ads every year. Right? That's not your business model. You know, and it's likewise, I'm not trying to reduce the cost of my goods because that lowers the value of what I'm doing and the people that's doing it.
So lastly, because I'll be remiss if I didn't mention this, Max and Razor, is that this end of this week, this Friday, there's this national call for a boycott of those who have pulled back their DEI initiatives. I say that because there's somebody listening that goes to, I'm just going to throw out one of the names, Walmart, for everything, groceries and everything else. All right. So let's say that they participate in the boycott, right? And you know, let's stay within the grocery realm in particular. What would be your advice to those folks if you're not going to go to one of the major chains, and but they may not know where else they can go? What would be your answer?
Well, my answer initially would be, you know, we should always be boycotting. Like it should never be a day. It should be months on end. Like I get a little. I'm really probably a black nationalist in many ways, especially economically. Pretty much all the clothes I have on, with the exception of my jeans today, are black owned. You know, I'm a black owned producer, and I'm very intentional about doing that. I've been doing that for the last 20 or 30 years. I've looked for black vendors to support. Now there's the Virginia Black Farmer Directory. You can find farmers on that particular website to find local farmers. People want to support me. I'm like, I'm okay. There's a whole lot of other farmers probably closer to you who need your business a lot more than I do. So I want to make sure that my local farmers are around that can be supported, and they have everything that you would need. There's things called community supported agriculture, which when you're doing a boycott or something like that, take time. Don't get caught up in the emotions. Wait till things are in place to be able to take care of you in the process, and just buy less. A lot of times we go to the grocery store and we buy stuff and we put it in the pantry, and stuff is pushed back in the pantry more and more and more and more. And you ain't really buying needs; you're just buying out of habit.
Right.
I ain't bought this in a couple of weeks. We must need some more. And it's not always about being intentional with those dollars. Go into Walmart or food, or whatever place you're getting your stuff with a list. Stick to your list. Don't do anything extra outside of that list. And have some economic discipline in that. And then in the springtime, as farmers are coming up, look to support those farmers. There are cattle share opportunities with people, you know, for people we meet who can buy, you know, a quarter of a cow, a half a cow, a whole cow, which provides a whole lot of meat. That's usually grass fed and usually healthier than a lot of meats that you'll find. There's CSAs, community supported agriculture, that will be, I'm sure there's some in Charlottesville, and we'll be doing some things probably in Charlottesville this coming year to kind of help out our community in that way. $50 or $60 box a week will give you vegetables for a week to 10 days that you can, you know, have for your family. There are different ways of approaching economic boycotts, but the best one is to be very intentional and do it together, and then make little small things every day. You know, another aspect of economic boycotts is actually buying shares of the daggone stock and becoming a stakeholder owner of said business, which Walmart shares may be, I don't know, maybe $100, $125 a share. And it wasn't like when I was growing up where you had to get a brokerage account. Now you can do Robinhood, you can do Stash, you can do a whole bunch of other smaller companies and make your voice be heard from a shareholder standpoint. You know, you may be only have a couple of shares. They don't care. You got a voice, you got a vote, and you can help to control or at least initiate some policies internally through that way, especially if you get a lot of other shareholders on your side. So there are different ways to skin or to feed that cat or feed that bird.
Gotcha. Thank you, man. We gotta have you back. We gotta stay in touch because that info you're providing something we need to keep disseminating on a regular basis. Max?
Yeah, no, I think I think that this has been a great show, and definitely I'm just going to call it kind of like a blessing to our listening audience. You got a lot of information this show, a lot of very useful, helpful information for your life. And so I want to thank you for tuning in. We always appreciate you for rocking with us every Sunday. But take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll see you next time.
from the supergroup New Edition. Ricky Bell, Mike Bivens, and Ronnie DeVoe. A great welcome, please, ladies and gentlemen, for Bell, Biv, DeVoe.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.